everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Crimson, and in this video we are going to be doing a Blood Angels army showcase for Warhammer 40k. Now, in the past I have made a Blood Angels army showcase before. However, that one was made right when I had gotten into the faction and most of my models were hand-me-downs from my family. But that was about a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago. And since then I have curated and made a modern Blood Angels army to rival any collector or player. So I am super happy with how my army has turned out, both in terms of the model types, the paint jobs, and we do also still have those old models that we saw in the original video. So before we get started, let's just quickly go over one thing, just in case you're new to the channel or unfamiliar with 40k or the Blood Angels. Let's just quickly talk for a minute about who the Blood Angels are and what they are. So the Blood Angels were one of the first founding legions back when the Great Crusade was a thing in Warhammer lore. This was in around the year 30,000. They were led by their Primarch Sanguinius, and they gained a lot of his passions and a lot of his violence and anger. They struggle with many things. At this point, they struggled with only something called the Red Thirst. And the Red Thirst is because they are vampires. They need to drink the blood of mortals, or they don't need to drink the blood of mortals. But if they don't, they become extremely weak, and when they do, they become extremely strong, and they get to a point of frenzying after a while if they go long enough without blood and aren't of the soundest mind. So this lasted all the way up into the Heresy, where the Blood Angels stayed loyal to the Emperor, and during the final parts of the Siege of Terra, their Primarch Sanguinius was killed by Horus Lupercal, and this was moments after the Emperor arrived and basically turned Horus into a bunch of burnt atoms. So because of this, another of their genetic flaws or genetic mutations came into play, and that is the Black Rage. So the Black Rage is similar to the Red Thirst in that it does build up, and eventually it will take and consume every single member of the Blood Angels, and there are subsequent chapters that split off from them in the second founding and so on. The difference between the Red Thirst and the Black Rage is that if you have succumbed to the Red Thirst, after some blood, you're fine. If you succumb to the Black Rage, you are essentially lost, and you become something called Death Company, which we will get into shortly. But those afflicted with the Black Rage see themselves on Horus's flagship, looking at Horus murdering their gene-sire, and they basically become berserkers. The closest thing to a loyalist Khanate berserker there is a Blood Angel's Death Company, or a Blood Angel who has fallen to the Black Rage. Now, this is not actually them fighting Horus Lupercal because he's dead. They will perceive any threat as being Horus. So if there is a Termagant, and this is what makes a Blood Angel crack and enter the Black Rage, he will 100% believe that that Termagant is Horus Lupercal and will be frothing at the mouth trying to kill him. This is not just limited to the Blood Angels themselves. All of the chapters bearing Sanguinius's gene seed have this, and all of them have different coping mechanisms to try and keep it at bay. For example, the Blood Angels have something called the Virtues and the Graces. But one of the things that the Blood Angels do is they are all master artisans. Basically, as a way of keeping their mind and body busy to try and stave off the Black Rage. So they are master painters, artificers, smiths, sculptors, goldsmiths, all that. And the Blood Angels have a lot of finery to them, but it is with the caveat that they make everything that their chapter owns themselves. So if you see a Blood Angel who is absolutely covered in gold and rubies and blood gems in his armor, and maybe he has a very ornate sword, he made that himself, from the highest captain to the most standard intercessor. But that is essentially who the Blood Angels are. So just in case you did not know, that is it. So with that out of the way, let us get into it. Now, one thing about the Blood Angels that I will cover more as we get into the units is that they have a distinct helmet color based on the unit's role. So let's start off with the most basic, the battle line, which is the standard Blood Angels red. So these would be units such as your standard intercessor or heavy intercessor, or just anyone that's really not a specialized model but just a battle line unit. Next is the yellow helmets, which are for close support. These are units that specialize in up-close and personal melee combat as well as anything close quarters. So this includes the standard models like the Assault Intercessor and the Jump Pack Intercessor, but also goes into a lot of the Phobos units such as Infiltrators, Incursors, and Reavers. Next, we have the blue helmets of the heavy support. So these units are any kind of heavy weapons guy or anyone in the heavier Gravis armor. So these would be, for example, Eradicators, Infernus Marines, Aggressors, and even older units such as Devastators with their heavy weapons. And finally, I'm just going to do these two in the same category because they both have the same helmet color, is the gold helmets. So gold helmets are for veterans and for command units. So for veterans, these would include your Stern Guard, your Blade Guard, and your Vanguard veterans. And for the command units, these would include models like captains, lieutenants, or any kind of leader model. So before we get into all those models we saw on the table, I just want to quickly show you guys this. So this is my tactical Marines that I still have from the original video. So tactical Marines are also known as firstborn Marines and are slowly being phased out. Gameplay-wise, they are essentially inferior to the standard intercessor in every single way, except they have the ability to carry a much greater variety of weapons. They can essentially carry any single weapon that is available to them. So this ranges from bolters to special weapons like plasmas and melters to heavy weapons like las cannons and multi-melters. So this is just what one of my standard tactical Marines looks like. As you can see, just very basic. But it is mainly the leader units that I wanted to show you because these guys are something else. Also, here's a sergeant, a firstborn sergeant. Really, really cool. I love the wing. So first up, we have this guy, a firstborn lieutenant. One of the things that I did not mention is the Blood Angels have different color helmets for their different roles, both in combat and in the command structure. So command units and veterans have gold helmets. So this guy is a lieutenant, but old, and he has the beak helmet, which is always a treat to see. Then we have this guy. So this is one of the oldest Blood Angels sculpts there is. Again, this was a hand-me-down. I did a head swap to give him a helmet. But yeah, this model is just so cool. Next, we have this guy, another lieutenant. Nothing really out of the ordinary about him, just standard, bolter and chainsword. However, he does have some very nice shoulders and a nice little chalice on his backpack. Here is probably my favorite firstborn unit. So this is a champion. And as you can see, he is fully decked out. He has a melter pistol, he has this power axe, and every single part of him is just adorned in the pinnacle of finery, from the laurel on his helmet to the gold on his shoulders. He has a cape, the Blood Angel's symbol on his shoulder with the bloodstone. Yeah, this model was amazing to make. I used a bunch of upgrade sprues and stuff to kit bash this guy, and I absolutely love him. So next is this guy. This guy is, I believe, technically can either be used as a lieutenant or a company champion. I believe the company champion is actually an Ultramarines unit. However, I do have one of the official sculpts for my Blood Angels. But this guy with the sword and the shield and hammer make for a really cool look, especially with the iron halo. And speaking of company champions, this is my official firstborn company champion. So this is a kit bash model, of course. He has his power sword, his gold helmet with that kind of Aztec death mask look to it. I gave him a shield I found from another kit. And yeah. And then finally, for our last model for these guys is this guy. So this is a captain. This model is so old that he is metal. And again, he has the beak helmet. But yeah, he is so cool. I personally love all of these old models. I know the new models definitely have that charm, but there's just something about the old models that look so cool. One thing I really like about the older types of Marines, let me see if I can find one, is that they have, this guy here has a flamer, but some of them have chains around their bolters, like, they're tied to it by duty. I can't seem to find one, but oh well. So that is it for that. I just wanted to quickly get that out of the way before we get into the real main part of the Army Showcase. Okay, so first up, we're going to start with the most basic of Space Marine units, the Intercessor. Now, the Intercessor is your standard, most generic, most standard, nothing standout model. They are your standard infantry for any Space Marine army. Now, being that they are Space Marines, they are incredibly good, even though they are the lowest type of Marine unit. They come with a mixture of usually just bolters, but sometimes some of them have bolt pistols. I have some of my sergeants in the front here. One of the things that the Blood Angels do is the sergeants is that they will have one or both of their pauldrons painted black. But yeah, and they also have the standard red helmet that is accustomed to standard battle line infantry. Just gonna go through some more here, as you can see. And the amount of models that the intercessors actually have is really cool. So like this guy, for example, has his weapon slung on his arm while holding a bolt pistol. And then the final sergeant is actually an official intercessor sergeant model, not just one that I painted. But this is him here with the Aquila on his backpack and his shoulders black. I really like him.
Hi, this is Crimson from the future. So, with the intercessors, while editing, I am just now noticing that I have some of the heavy intercessors mixed in with the standard intercessors. So, I believe there's maybe about 10 to 15 of the total intercessors that you see are actually heavy intercessors, so just keep that in mind when we get to the heavy intercessor part. I believe that there was about 20, so that brings it up to about maybe 30 to 35.
The units that I have leading each unit type is not necessarily the units that are best for leading them or that I would personally use. Some of them are, some of them are not. I just wanted to try and spread around my officers and chaplains and, buff units like that. So first up, we have our first look at a Primaris captain. So this is him here. As you can see, he has the golden helmet. He has the blood drop embossed on one of his shoulders while holding a bolter in one hand and a power sword in the other. His other shoulder is gold, which is standard for Blood Angels captains, while having this sweeping red cloak and this massive red halo. Gold halo, I don't know why I said red. But yeah, really cool model, and I actually think this guy is like in my top 3 captains that I own. Next is a Primaris Lieutenant, so not really much to say about him. So this is what the lieutenant's shoulders look like. They are red with 2 little bits of yellow on either side. Now this guy had already, because I was dumb and put the transfer on first, a yellow blood drop for the first company. So you can't really see the red all that well, but it is there. But anyway, he has a plasma pistol and a power sword, and again, the golden helmet. You're gonna notice a trend in my armies that most of my guys have helmets just because the official reason is because no sane warrior would go into battle without a helmet, but the real reason is I hate painting faces. And the last leader unit is this Primaris Ancient. I actually just finished painting him today with this custom base that I got on Etsy. Here's the banner. I think it turned out excellent. Ancients are one of those unit types that are just buff wagons. So they provide so many buffs and abilities to units that they are either leading or a part of. So for really any kind of unit in any kind of Space Marine army, not just Blood Angels. Okay, next up is the Assault Intercessor, which for the Blood Angels is the real standard chaff if you know their playstyle. So these guys sport the yellow helmets of the close support units. They carry bolt pistols and sometimes plasma pistols, and their main melee weapon is a chain sword, but they can also be replaced with power fists, thunder hammers, and power swords. So I have about 35 of these guys here. I just have a few examples to show you. They are probably one of my favorite units in my entire army. I love these guys so much. So again, these are the sergeants. You can see by the the black shoulders. So this guy just has a power sword. I tend to give my sergeants better weapons, as you will guys will come to see. So this guy also has a power sword and a flamer pistol, which is really cool. They can use any kind of pistol. Bolt pistols are the norm, with plasma pistols being kind of exceptional, but really any kind of pistol can work well with them. Here is another guy. Absolutely love him. I think he turned out great with the gold trim. And then this guy here, this is another sergeant, except this guy does not have the chainsword. He has a thunder hammer and a plasma pistol. So definitely would not want to face up against this guy sprinting at you at Mach 10. So leading these guys, and as I said, I had about 35 of these, so I have a couple of leader units here. So first we have the Blood Angels exclusive captain. Now, there are a lot of loadouts for him, and I know because he's a captain that he should have a gold helmet. However, I made a mistake and painted him red the first time, but I think the red with the gold halo and the gold level looks really good. So he has this kind of muscular looking breastplate and chest armor. In one hand he has a melter pistol, and in the other a power fist, as well as this really cool winged insignia on his... I don't know actually where that is. I guess that would be where a tilt shield would go. And then with a cape and everything on the back. Next up, we have Gabriel Seth of the Flesh Terrors. So the Flesh Terrors are a founding chapter that came from the Blood Angels. I believe they were in the second founding. And they are very different from the Blood Angels, where the Blood Angels are all about the arts and the graces and the virtues. The Flesh Terrors think that is a load of BS, and they just kill and kill and kill and drink as much blood as possible. So Gabriel Seth here is their chapter master, and he used to be a named playable character for Blood Angels. However, in 10th, they got rid of him. However, I still really wanted him in the army, so that is why he is here. And I love this model so much. He has this really cool two-handed chain greatsword, which is just so cool. Anyway, let's continue. Speaking of characters who used to be playable but not anymore, we have Lieutenant Tolmaron. So, he, again, like Seth, was a playable character until he wasn't, but his model is still really cool. So he has his bolt pistol, he has his power sword. This is one of the rare cases where I decided to actually do the face instead of the helmet. And this is a better look as to what a lieutenant's shoulder should look like. And just to break up the monotony of the red, I did his bolt pistol yellow. Okay, second last is our chaplain. So this is our first and only standard chaplain in the unit. So when you run a chaplain with assault intercessors, you get a +1 on your wound roll, as well as many other different passive buffs. So, like all chaplains, regardless of chapter, they take just black armor, which I really like. This is the Primaris chaplain. And I'm gonna be honest, he's not my favorite Primaris model, but he is really cool.
So our second to last leader model for the Assault Intercessors is this captain. So this captain is the Blood Angels exclusive or unique captain model. And I think he is one of my favorite captains, probably top 3. Maybe my favorite, but there's a couple of strong contenders. So let's have a good look at him. So first off, he has a extremely muscular styled chest plate with a blood drop in the middle. He has this winged insignia here, which is so cool. I believe this is the only model for Blood Angels that actually has this officially. I know a lot of people use this for like kit bashing and stuff. For his firearm, he has a melter pistol. I've been contemplating swapping it out with a plasma pistol or a bolt pistol, but at the same time, I don't want to ruin it because this is how it came. And for his melee weapon, he has a power fist, which a captain with a power fist is always good. So on his leg, you can see another winged insignia in white with a blood drop and a bunch of robes and purity seals and some pouches on his belt. And of course, no Blood Angels captain would be complete without the black cape. So onto his head, you can see that he has the blood droplet in the center of his head. And he has a golden laurel and a golden iron halo. So really, really good model. And even on his power pack, there is a blood droplet. Now, you're probably wondering after everything you've seen and after I explained the whole helmet color code thing, why did I paint his head or his helmet red? And that is because in all of the official pictures of the model and other people's work on the guy that I've seen online on Google Images, it's all red. Every other Blood Angels captain is gold helmeted, but this guy is always red in official and unofficial art, so I just decided just to leave it as is. Plus, I think if I did the helmet gold, it would take away from the gold laurel and the gold iron halo, and especially the gold on the wing. So yeah, this is definitely an incredible model and just another reason to play Blood Angels because you get access to models like this.
Okay, so next up we have our heavy intercessor. Now, these guys are great for controlling objectives, providing covering fire and suppressing fire, and basically anything that you would expect of a heavy support unit. Now, they are armed with heavy bolters, as you can see. So, extremely powerful, much more so than the standard bolter, but I believe it is less accurate. I might be wrong about that, but yeah. Also, if you have seen, some of them have red helmets and some of them have blue helmets. Blue helmets in the Blood Angels are fire support, so these are the heavy weapons guys. Originally, when I got them, I thought that the heavy intercessor was a heavy fire support, but it actually turns out no, that they have red helmets. Also, I have a few painted as something we are going to touch on shortly, and that is Death Company. So Death Company is another unit class within Blood Angels, but we'll get to them when we get to them. However, I have a squad of 5 that I painted up like Death Company, and Death Company has these red weapons, which are really cool. So overall, I have 15 of them. I actually have 5 more that I have not assembled yet, so all in all 20, which for this type of unit is more than enough. Now, who is leading these guys? So first off, we have another Primaris Ancient. Same stick as before. I won't go into detail repeating myself. Provides major buffs, and for a heavy fire support unit, they are really, really good buffs. Next is one of the newer models. This is a Primaris Lieutenant. So again, I have painted him as a Blood Angel. I did him with the helmetless option because I lost the helmet he came with. He does have a helmet on his hip, and I could take that off and head swap him, but I don't want to do that because I think it looks really cool. Again, as a lieutenant, he has the golden helmet and the shoulder pad with the red down the middle with little yellow stripes at the side. And lastly, leading them is this guy. So this is their main leader. This is a Primaris captain with master crafted bolter. So this guy is actually a really good leader for the heavy intercessors. First off, they both have the Gravis armor. So there's 3 types of armor for the Primaris Marines. There's Tacticus, which is like your standard armor. That is what the intercessors and assault intercessors are wearing. There's Gravis armor, which is the heavier one. It's slower but more protective. That is what these guys are wearing. And then there's another one called Phobos armor, which is a lot lighter, a lot stealthier, but does not provide enough attention. He also comes with a massive heavy gun. So apart from having the same armor type, giving buffs to other Gravis units, and having a similar firepower weapon, just much more potent, he makes a great leader for these guys. So yeah, that is it for the heavy intercessors. Now let us move on to our final intercessor type, the jump pack intercessors. Okay, so next up we have my jump pack intercessors, and these are actually the most recent addition to my army, which is probably surprising as a Blood Angels player. Now, for Blood Angels, these guys are as important and kind of the signature of the Blood Angels like the Assault Intercessors are. So, they serve an extremely similar purpose to the Assault Intercessors, except for 2 main differences, and both of them have to do with their jump pack. So first off, their jump pack allows them to move much, much faster on the ground compared to basically any other ground-based unit. The other is their ability to fly and soar and hover, which just makes doing hit and run attacks so much more fun. So let me show you 2 of them, just as examples. So here we have one of my standard guys. So again, he has the yellow helmet and the bolt pistol and the chainsword, and I gave all of my And I gave all of my jump pack intercessors the white Space Marine symbol on their chest. By the way, I don't know if I've actually said this yet, but Blood Angels have green helmet lenses, which is really, really cool, except for the heavy support, which are the blue helmets. They have red, but I just think it's really neat. I'm not sure what other main Space Marine factions have green lenses, but it just sets them apart. So anyway, that is a standard guy. And then here is one of my sergeants. So that was just a standard guy. So here is one of my sergeants. So again, very, very similar. Half of them have just the standard Space Marine sergeant helmet with the little skull in the middle. The other half have the Blood Angels helmets with the blood drop in the middle. So again, you see the black shoulders with the red trim. All of my sergeants are equipped with the same loadout, plasma pistol and power fist. Both for basically just taking out more elite infantry, and also the power fist allows for vehicles. By the way, just in case you've seen that I have quite a few sergeants for a lot of things, I tend to make one sergeant for every 5 standard units. Now, it doesn't always work out, but that's like my main thing that I do with all of the units that we've covered so far. Now, who is leading them? So these are all of my jump pack based commanders, and some of them are kit bashed. So first up we have this. This is one of the newer captain with a jump pack. Now, a couple of things about him. First off, you can see the wings. I got these wings from the old Astaroth the Grim model. I cut them off and used them on him. And the other is I replaced his standard Marine helmet with a Blood Angels Tactical Marine helmet. That gives off that Mayan death mask look. So he has his power sword and he has his plasma pistol, and he is just ready to go to work. Next up is another just standard captain with jump pack. So here he is. He has some wings. Now these were spare wings off of the original Sanguinary Guard that I used. So he has a flamer pistol, which is really, really cool, and a power fist. He does not have a Blood Angels specific helmet. Well, actually, that's a lie. He does. I don't know if you can see the little blood droplets and the level, but I mean, compared to the other one, still an amazing unit. And having the option between which weapons you want your leader to have. Speaking of weapons, we have this guy. So this is another jump pack captain. I'm not going to go too in depth on him. He is a guy with a 2-handed thunder hammer. So he is incredible for just coming down and smashing the ever-living daylights out of anything. He's also really good for anti-tank. So if you are using your jump pack guys with the power fists for anti-vehicle, this is your lad right here. So our second to last leader unit for the jump pack intercessors is this guy right here, if it will focus. So this is a jump pack chaplain, or a chaplain with jump pack, whichever you prefer. So he gives all of the buffs and benefits of having a chaplain. He has his signature Crozius, his pistol. I think it's a melter pistol. I actually can't tell. And his wings. And his white skull mask. I actually don't know if this guy is a Blood Angels exclusive because I've only ever seen this model in Blood Angels armies. And I have another model of this, and he has the Blood Angels droplet on his helmet. So you get all of the benefits from having a chaplain with you, except you get the mobility of a jump pack captain, the aggression of a jump pack captain, and yeah, I think that's actually it. But I believe he makes her units technically a little bit more lethal, but I'm not sure on that. But yeah, so let's move on to our final leader unit for the jump pack, guys. So this is the final model that is one of my leader units for my jump pack intercessors, and he is a complete custom kit bashed model. So my idea was that I've only ever seen captains with jump packs being the Tacticus armor, but what would it look like if someone in Gravis armor, the heavy armor, were to be a jump pack captain or just a jump pack user? So that's when I made him. So let me see if this will just focus a little bit. So he has his shield in one hand, his power sword in the other. He has these two wings, bunch of insignia, some of which is inlaid with gold to signify that he is a captain. And of course you have his two wings here. Now for the life of me, I cannot remember where I got these wings. I think it was Etsy, but this was one of the first kit bashes I made for this army. But he also has one of the old Horus Heresy era jump packs that looks a lot more powerful, which I did on purpose because, you know, for someone in Gravis, it would take a bit more power to get them off the ground. But yeah, that is my jump pack intercessors all done. Let's move on. And the next unit type up is my beloved Death Company. So, for my beloved Death Company, first off, what is Death Company? Death Company is a unit type that is exclusive to the Blood Angels, so you cannot use Death Company if you play any other type of Space Marine chapter or Legion. Now, I love these guys. They are one of, if not my favorite parts of playing Blood Angels. So, in the beginning of the video, I spoke briefly about how the Blood Angels have to deal with two things. The Red Thirst, which is the need and craving for blood, and the Black Rage, which is once it consumes them, they are lost. There is no coming back. They see every enemy, no matter who it is, as Horus Lupercal himself, and they go into a berserk frenzy. You know, best example I can give is like a loyalist Khorne berserker. And that is what Death Company is. So when a brother of the Blood Angels falls to the Black Rage, he is restrained and put in chains until they can get back to either Baal or until they reach the next battlefield. And then they are sent out as suicide missions. Death Company have to be killed, so they are sent out, essentially suicide missions. Now, this is actually a mercy. It's not that they don't have a choice. They need to be chained up because they will kill civilians, they will kill their own brothers, they will kill literally any single life form in front of them. So they are sent out like a missile. If you have read The Devastation of Baal, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. Now, what's interesting about Death Company on the tabletop is that there are so many models and options for models. So, just for a brief rundown before I show you what there is. So there are the older official Death Company models. These are models that are quite old, but are made for the single purpose of being Death Company units. Then the second is new units that technically fit Death Company. So these would be maybe an Assault Intercessor or something, because most of them have the same loadout. But also with Blood Angels, you can take any model that is not on a flying base or does not come on a flying base and use them as Death Company. Now, if the guy, say, has a stealth carbine, he's not going to be able to use that, but you can use him as a Death Company unit. Death Company, whereas the Blood Angels have red armor, the Death Company have black armor and usually are covered in red crosses to signify that they are at the end. So let's have a look and see these models. So the most noteworthy unit in Death Company are the Death Company brothers with the jump packs. Now these guys can come equipped with all manner of weapons. So here I will show you a few. So here we have a Death Company brother with a 200 Thunderhammer. One thing about Death Company is the armor is amazing with its detail. I really like it. Also, this little crown looking thing on top of his head means that he is like a sergeant or something. Not a sergeant in Death Company because there is no kind of like pecking order or, structure, but this would have been like a sergeant who fell to the Black Rage. Another example is someone like this who just has a standard loadout. This is like your typical Death Company loadout, very similar to the jump pack intercessors with your bolt pistol and your chainsword. And finally, we have units like this. So this guy is part of a 5-man team that I kit bashed. These are very old models, and you can even tell because of the square jump pack. These guys have melter pistols and power fists. So these guys are like my main squad or leader squad for whatever we're doing. So that's it for the jump pack side of Death Company. Let's have a look at some of the others. So next up we have this guy. This is your standard, most generic form of Death Company unit. They are Death Company that do not have jump packs, so they lose some of the speed, they lose a lot of the flight and the aggression that the Death Company needs. However, they tend to have actual rifles instead of just a pistol and a chainsaw, which is a nice change of pace. Now, then you have your new Primaris units that you have painted up to use as Death Company guys. So this is one of mine. This is a Assault Intercessor. I have 10 of these in my Death Company. And he is technically a Death Company unit. The benefit of doing this, despite my personal opinion that the old models look a lot cooler and have a lot more varied in their loadouts, is that you can use this guy as an Assault Intercessor if you needed to. I don't. I have 40 and the limit is 30. But, the option is there. So these are a great choice for someone who isn't sure whether they want to buy, say, Death Company or Assault Intercessors, you can do both, which is really cool. Now, the other thing is my personal preference for what models I think make the best Death Company units. And that answer, if I can find it, is the Reaver. So the Reaver is a Phobos unit, and I just think the model looks incredible as Death Company, with the leering skull mask, the massive knives, chest strapped with explosives. It just, everything about it is just like chef's kiss. Perfect. Here's another one here. I gave this guy, again, a skull helmet and all that, which is just so cool. Yeah, I really like this, and I love the knives, and I love how unhinged and just dangerous they look, which is the whole point of Death Company, because they are literal schizophrenics that Lord Dante has sent into battle. Now, as for who is leading our Death Company, we have quite a few models, so we are going to try and just breeze through them, because there are about 5 or 6 that I just didn't know where else to put. So first up is this guy. This is the official Games Workshop Death Company Captain model, except I swapped out his arm that had a chainsword with a power fist. So this is the official old school guy or captain for the Death Company. Next, we have this guy. So this is a Gravis captain that I painted up to be Death Company, just to make a really spectacular looking leader, but he has been vastly overshadowed by someone you will soon see. Anyway, this model is still really good, and I really like how it turned out. I also really like how the Death Company have, red swords and red guns and basically red everything. Next, so this is someone that I made alongside the Gravis Captain. So this is a Blood Angels Primaris Lieutenant. However, I just painted him as Death Company. Now, Death Company does not have lieutenants. They have captains, and that is it. However, I just thought that it would be cool to kind of have this, for like story building and stuff, to have this lieutenant and captain both fall into the Black Rage at the same time. And even though both are lost in the rage, the lieutenant still, serves his old captain. I just thought that would be a cool idea. Anyway, let's move on to the main stars of the show. So this is a custom model that I spent hours, and I mean like 60 hours on. I hope the light will do him justice. This is a custom Blood Angels Death Company Terminator Captain. So the Death Company does not have Terminators. However, this is a Terminator who fell to the Black Rage, and rather than give up his armor, he kept it on to go wreak havoc. So, as you can see, he has bloodshot eyes. His mouth is covered in blood. He has these twin lightning claws, which are currently deactivated. And I don't know if you can see, I did like these little strings of gore coming off them onto the base, which I really, really love this guy. This might be my best work I've ever done in my entire life. I think the base might be a little bit too big to play, but I'm not sure. Anyway, I could literally sit here talking about this guy all day, so I will move on. So our next guy and the penultimate guy is a named character. So this is Astorath the Grim. If you have seen my Blood Angels update video, you will know that I have gotten the new versions of all the characters. So this is Astorath the Grim. Astorath is the High Chaplain of the Blood Angels and is known as the Redeemer of the Lost. And he has a job that people pity him for. Some don't like him because of it, and others just genuinely feel bad for the guy. His job is to kill anyone who falls to the Black Rage and cannot be turned into Death Company. Or if someone is in Death Company and they are sent on a suicidal charge, if by some miracle by the Emperor they return alive, Astorath is there with his axe waiting to cut the guy in half, which is just mad. So yeah, this model is so cool. I love the pose, love the wings. It's so much better than the old model. But yeah, anyway, let's move on to our final unit. So for Death Company, our final leader unit is none other than the Marty's himself. This is no surprise to anyone who knows anything about Death Company. So, in case you are unfamiliar, Lamartis is a Blood Angels chaplain. However, he is an extremely famous chaplain, not just within the Blood Angels and the chapters of Sanguinius, but all over the Imperium. He is the guardian of all of those who succumb to the Black Rage, so he is in charge of taking care of their well-being when they are off of the battlefield. Also, the thing that he is famous for is the Marty's did fall to the Black Rage, and there's only one case of someone falling to the Black Rage and coming back from it, but we will get to that person later. The Marty's is not that person. He fell to the Black Rage, and instead of it kind of washing over him and then him coming back, his sheer will alone keeps it at bay. He holds it off all day, every day, just with his willpower, which is crazy and is one of the reasons why I love the Martys so much. But that, he takes care of his brothers who most would rather see dead, and for that a lot of people do not like him. But I think what he does is an amazing job and definitely worth the recognition. But yeah, that is it for the Death Company. So let us move on. So next up we have our Infernus Marines. Also, I forgot to say I have about 40 to 45 Death Company units. It's not as easy to tell because I've had to kind of scrunch the bunches up a little bit rather than put them into straight lines, so I will try and tell you how many are there and how many I have. So the Infernus Marines are the Flamethrower Marines. As you can see some of them here. Let me just get this to focus. So you can see here with the flamethrower, this is like an effect I did on the weapon. This type of flamethrower is called a Pyroblaster, and it is essentially a flamer on steroids. I believe this is actually more powerful, in lore at least, than a heavy flamer. But it is capable of cooking people alive, even in armor. So, you know, with my Krieg or Guard or Sororitas, their flamers aren't that useful against an armored target. Whereas these guys as Pyroblasters absolutely are. Because they are heavy weapons, they have the blue helmet. This guy here, the sergeant. The reason these ones look a little different than the other ones is at the time when I was doing them, I had just received a little bit of like a gloss varnish, so I wanted to test it out on a model, or sorry, a squad of models. But I actually think it looks really good, so I like it. This guy here is lobbing a grenade with his flamethrower at his side. So their main use in game is to clear out hordes of chaff dealing with infantry, light infantry, and maybe some elite infantry who are on the lighter side in terms of armor. Their weapon is great. And in case you don't play 40k, with all the other weapons, when you shoot, you have to roll to see if you hit. That is not the case with flamethrowers or pyroblasters. You have to roll to see if it catches enemies behind them and to the side. But if you shoot someone with this and they're in range, they're gone. That's it. Called the Plasma Incinerator. Let me pick one up so you guys can see. So this is a much heavier duty, guys. I have this captain, again, another incredible captain that I love. So he is standing there with his bolter, his copper shoulder pad, his power sword, black cape. I don't know why red armor with a black cape looks so good. White shoulder pad, and his iron halo. Again, I did give him a helmet, but that's just my personal preference. And the other unit leading this is this lieutenant. So he is just a standard Primaris lieutenant. Again, you can see the shoulder pad there. He has his bolter under one arm and is readying up his power fist to deck someone. So, yeah, great model. I did do a little bit of kit bashing with this. I gave him the helmet of a Blood Angel rather than just a standard Space Marine helmet. But yeah, that's it. So that is it for the Infernus Marines. Let us move on. Okay, so next up we have the Hellblasters. Now the Hellblasters are your dedicated plasma unit, but they don't just have standard plasma rifles. Instead, they have something called the Plasma Incinerator. Let me pick one up so you guys can see. So this is a much heavier duty plasma weapon than your standard plasma rifle, able of sustaining constant direct fire for short to medium periods of time. In game, they are great for taking out all kinds of infantry, both standard and elite, as well as dealing with minor vehicles. And these are one of my favorite units in the entirety of the Primaris Space Marine range. Now, I have about 25 of them, 25. And yes, that is overkill. You would only ever need 10, maybe 15 of these guys. But I have some of different paint jobs. I have this one, for example. This, I know he looks maroon. I actually did him with a wash, and his armor turned this kind of not quite purple, but like this maroonish red, but I actually really like it. And because they are fire support units, they have the helmets that are blue. So this guy just has his standard rifle, whereas some other models come, where did I put him? Come with units such as this, where they have special backpacks just for them, and you can see the power cord running from, I'm assuming that's the battery, back into the backpack. Now, there's only one major downside to Hellblasters, and as you can probably guess by the units that are leading them, because they use plasma weapons, they are capable of overcharging. And when that happens, plasma weapons tend to explode. So because of this, the best units to lead these guys, or at least to have with you if you are using these, for standard Space Marine players, apothecaries, or if you are a Blood Angels player, then you would want a Sanguinary Priest. So similar to how chaplains were all black armor regardless of their chapter standard color scheme, the same goes for apothecaries and usually sanguinary priests as well. So this is just one of my standard Primaris apothecaries. I do really like this model. I like that he's holding, I believe that's the gene seed. Oh no, sorry, that's the dog tags on this one. There's another one that I have that's holding the gene seed, and you can see the vials of blood and everything. So this is one of the newer apothecary models. Then next to him we have yet another apothecary. So next to him we have our second standard apothecary. I painted him almost identical, just with a tiny bit more red, and this guy is in fact holding the gene seed of his fallen battle brother. I always found it weird that in this model, you know, the medic is standing on the chest of his fallen brother, which just seems odd. Like, you know, if it was an enemy, sure, but you would think someone whose life you were trying to save and failed, you wouldn't just immediately plant your boot on their corpse, but maybe that's just me being sentimental. So the next three models are Sanguinary Priests. I have one of the newer ones and two of the older ones. So, this is the new Sanguinary Priest model, and he looks amazing. The detail is so good. You can see the blood vials on his chest, the little cup insignia or chalice insignia. The shoulders, I did one red and one white, and on the white one I gave him the chalice transfer. He has this really cool apothecarian vambrace on one of his wrists. He also has this little servitor assistant that comes with like a surgical drill. But he does actually, despite being a priest and a medic, he does come with a bolt gun and a chainsword. Now, you might be wondering, what is the difference between an apothecary and a sanguinary priest, apart from the fact that one is blood angels only? So, apothecaries are pure healers. They heal and potentially resurrect fallen allies. Sanguinary priests also do that, but they are much more potent healers, as well as they are able to give out damage buffs to allies that they are either near or the squad that they are part of. So they are very, very good. These two I won't spend too much time on, just because these are the old Sanguinary Priests. This guy has a jump pack, and as you can see, he has a goblet, and I did it so it might be hard to make out, but there's a streak of blood red going down the side of his arm like he spilled his drink, and then pooling on the bottom. Yeah, and then finally, this is either a mix of a sanguinary priest or a apothecary. This is a custom model that I made. So it has a bit of both parts. It has the jump pack and the chalice of the standard apothecary. But his chest and everything and his sword are all sanguinary priests. He does have this incredible spike on his medical vambrace. If you are familiar with 40k lore at all, apothecaries actually do have this spike to essentially put people out of their misery. So, like, they'll put their hand, to the base or back of their skull and then just launch that into their brain. So, really cool. I love those models to bits, but that has been the Hellblasters. And now let's move on. So next up, we have another one of my favorite units. This is the Eradicators. This is what they look like here. And they are such a cool unit, and they have such an important job. This is your close range anti-tank and heavy armor elite infantry, but they specialize in anti-tank. They come with these massive melters, and I believe you actually can upgrade them to multi-melters, but I personally just prefer them like this. They are absolutely capable of blowing a hole through a tank with just one of these guys, and I have 10 of them. The 10th is just a model that I kit bashed because they only come in packets of 3. So the only downside is that they have Gravis armor, which makes them very slow. So you are going to need a dedicated transport for these guys. Now these guys cannot take most transports. They cannot take rhinos or razorbacks or the new impulses. I believe they can only take the rhino and the Storm Raven gunship. Let me see if there's another one that I want to quickly show you. So here's another model here. This guy has the half helm, and he is a sergeant to boot. I actually think the last guy was a sergeant too, I just wasn't paying attention. Now, while I did say that I don't like doing faces, mainly just because I'm bad at them, I do really like the half helm look. And as you can see, his armor is a lot bulkier, has a lot more cables, his power pack is bigger. But yeah, so I have 10 of those guys. And there's actually new versions of Eradicators coming out with 11th edition, with heavy bolters, so I can't wait to get my hands on those. So, leading these guys, first off we have this firstborn lieutenant. Since these are anti-tank, I thought that I kind of kit-bashed firstborn lieutenant with a two-handed thunderhammer would be a good fit. As you can see, he has the angel wings on his shoulder pads. And then here we have the Gravis Captain. Now, we have already seen one Gravis Captain for my Death Company, but this is just a standard Gravis Captain. So he has his power sword, he has his, massive hood in his armor, his iron halo. This guy is really big for a space marine, but that makes sense, since, he is in Gravis armor and he is a captain. But yeah, let's move on to the Desolation Squad. So, the Desolation Squad is the Primaris' answer to anti-tank infantry. So, let me pick one up. So, they come with these massive grenade launcher type weapons, and they come with two options for assembly. A crack grenade launcher, which is for anti-vehicle, and I think a frag. I can't remember what the other one is called, but it's for infantry and hordes. I gave all of mine the crack grenade launcher just to deal with vehicles. Now, they are not the best at dealing with vehicles. There are certainly units that are still legal that are much, much better. But still, I just wanted to have some of them. Here is another example of a model, same type of grenade launcher, except this guy is also pulling out a pistol. Sorry, that's a bolt pistol. I thought it was a melter pistol for a second. And he has this cool kind of camera / flashlight with him. Again, heavy weapons, so blue helmet is the name of the game. Now, I cannot talk about the Desolation Squad without talking about the opinions surrounding them. A lot of people do not like this unit because of how it looks, to the point that they will not use it in any army, let alone own any of them, because they say that the weapons look more at home in an orc army rather than a space marine army. And I do agree, they are not the best looking models. Their weapons are kind of very odd compared to the rest of the Imperium stuff. They're very big, they're very chunky. They have these like belt-fed things for their grenades. But I actually still really like them. People tend to take Warhammer 40k a bit too seriously, in my opinion, and these guys have a certain silliness factor to them that I really like. Plus, not all the models are awful. Like this guy having, his weapon up in the air and his pistol out makes for a good scene. So they are definitely not objectively bad models, but a lot of people don't like them. But I do. They're not my favorite, but I do enjoy them. Now, as for who is leading my 10 Desolation Squad members, first up, we have our Primaris Captain. Now, this is a kit bash of an already existing Captain model. So he has his bolt pistol, and he has his power sword, which I had to swap for a Spare Grey Knight dagger because I lost his sword. Because he is a captain, he has the golden helmet along with the Aquila. Now, what I added to him is two things. So one is this purity seal that looks like, it's blowing in the breeze. And the other is this symbol here for the Blood Angels. Now, this does not normally come with this model. In fact, it is actually, if I just put them down for a second, it is actually the same winged insignia, just mirrored, that is on the dedicated Blood Angels captain that we saw during our look at the Assault Intercessors. So here it is on him. This is where it's supposed to be because it comes with this model. This one, I just found a spare on eBay, and I thought at the time this model looked very generic, but with a little bit of sprucing it up, he looks incredible. In my opinion, anyway. Next, we just have another captain, is this guy. He's very similar to one we saw earlier with the cape, the bolter, and the sword. However, he has this like Roman-esque plume on the top of his head. I didn't know what colors to do it, so I did a bone, like ivory bone white and dark red, and I think it looks really good contrasting with the gold of his helmet. But yeah, not spending too much time on him just because we saw a model like him already. And the final unit for the Desolation Squad is this Primaris Lieutenant. Now, this is actually a Space Wolf model. I do not like the Space Wolves at all. They are just not for me. However, this model is so cool. This guy with his beard kind of berserk charging into battle with an axe in one hand and a bolter in the other It's just such a good model, and even though it's a Space Wolf one, I think it makes a good Blood Angels unit. But yeah, let me know what you think of this being a Blood Angels model. Anyway, let's move on. So I was going to leave the vehicles until the end, but since they're right here, and they're just a few, I figured I might as well do them. So these are my Outrider bikes. I am not that big on bikes, and I actually think the Outriders are one of the only, if not the only, bike that is still available. So these guys drive around. They have bolt pistols and melee weapons like chainswords and thunder hammers. Their main goal is just to cut down infantry going super fast, kind of herding and corralling enemies away from certain objectives, and just kind of chasing the enemy down. Now, normally I would buy what's called the Captain on bike to lead them, but that model is now Legends, so instead I bought the Primaris Land Speeder instead. So this is it here. Personally, I actually am not that big a fan of this model. It's not bad by any means, it's just not for me, but I'm still glad to have it in my army. So this is a vehicle that floats off the ground, as you can see. It is extremely fast, so it's able to keep up with the bikes and kind of keep them safe from higher threats. It has the driver here, and it has the gunner here. Now there's two weapon options for this, a heavy bolter for dealing with infantry, and a heavy melter for dealing with armor. So since my Outriders are set for dealing with infantry, I gave this a melter to deal with tanks. It also came with an underslung kind of Gatling gun type thing. But apart from the way I use it, this model is great for, again, just quickly flying between objectives, quick hit and run attacks, and kind of corralling the enemy to keep them away from certain locations. But yeah, that's it for the bikes and for the land speeder. So let's move on to the next layer. So next up we have my Terminators. Now, I have a lot of Terminators. I have about 45. About 2/3 of them are melee, based on Blood Angels, and 1/3 is ranged. So I have basically every single kind of Terminator. I have Assault Terminators, like this guy, who have a shield and a thunder hammer. I have your melee Terminators. I'm using this guy as an example with the dual claws. And also ranged Terminators. This guy has a, I believe it's a Vulcan heavy bolter. But I also just have them with standard bolters and storm bolters, as well as more of these cannons. Now, I have a lot of different types of Terminator kits as well. For example, I have the Leviathan box Terminators. So they came with, say, guys like this. So, including the Leviathan Terminators, here are just a few of my favorites. So, first off, we have this guy. I believe this is actually technically a Terminator Sergeant, but he has his Thunder Hammer, his Aquila symbol, and his shield. So this shield is not the same as an Assault Terminator shield, but it's still a good defensive tool. Next is this guy, which is very, very similar, basically the exact same model. We have this unit, which is actually one of my most recent Terminators. So this is a Blood Angels Terminator with dual lightning claws. A lot of them have the little Aquila on top of their power pack. We have this guy, like we already covered, with the dual claws.
this model for an example of someone who is in the Leviathan kit. So he comes with a Stormbolter and a Chain Fist, which is a really, really cool combo. If you like Terminators, I cannot recommend the Leviathan box enough just for them. I also have 2 models here. I did have more, but I apparently lost them. These are their teleporter beacons. So basically you can set these up anywhere on the battlefield that the Terminators go. And you can use them for the Terminators to teleport back. So if there's an objective that's close to your side of the base, your Terminators could put one of these down. And then as they're advancing through the board, if it turns out that the enemy is trying to capture that position, instead of having to walk all the way back there or hitch a ride in a Land Raider, they can just teleport to it, which is such a good idea, and I wish that I did not lose them all. Anyway, so that is my Terminators. So now, who is leading my Terminators? So similar to the Death Company, there's a couple here. 3 are like the official leaders, and the others I just didn't know where else to put them. So first up, we have the official Blood Angels Terminator Captain. This model is unique to the Blood Angels. He has his his bolter with this weird little scope, which is funny on this tiny little gun with a box mag. His thunder hammer and his halo. I really like the little tilt shield that he has there with the Blood Angels symbol on it. That's not painted on, that's actually embossed and then painted. Next is this Terminator Captain. So this is a standard Terminator Captain that I just modified a tiny bit to give a Stormbolter. Oh, sorry, he came with the Stormbolter, I apologize. But I gave him a Power Fist, and not just any Power Fist, a Blood Angels Power Fist. It has the green roll, and again, an embossed blood drop that is part of the mold. And yeah, so he does have a symbol there, and I really like it. I'm a big fan of putting symbols or color designations on tilt shields. And then for the final standard Terminator Captain, we just have the generic Terminator Captain model. So the first one was the Blood Angels only one. The second one was a standard one that I kit bashed a little bit. This one is just straight off the shelf, exactly how he's meant to be. He has a Stormbolter like they all do, and he has a power sword. Really, really cool model. He has a Blood Angel symbol on one of his shields, and on the other he has a skull. Absolutely love this model. It's simple, but it's done right, and I think the faces are fine. By the way, just a pro tip for any aspiring collectors out there. If you want your Terminator captains to have helmets, you need to put them on before you build them completely, because I had 3 of this model Terminator, of this model Terminator before, and I only realized after I built them that I wanted to give them helmets, but because of like their hood and their cowl, it was next to impossible to get the head out, and I ended up ruining all of them, so I had to repurchase these. So if you want to give them helmets, which I strongly recommend because I am a big fan of helmets, make sure you put it on before you enclose their head in this shroud. Now, other Terminator units. We have a Terminator Chaplain. So this guy
basically functions exactly the same as a standard chaplain, providing the same buffs if he is the leader of a squad, and buffs if he is just part of the squad or nearby. Except this one is a Blood Angels model. Now, I know that normally chaplains are just black, but I really wanted to make this guy look like he is really fancy since he is really high up in the Blood Angels. Also, look at that spike that he has on his left arm there. So you can see him here, his skull mask with the red glowing eyes, all of the gold surrounding him, massive sword pinning a demon's skull to the ground. Brilliant, brilliant model. Next is another Terminator chaplain. This one is one of the older ones. I'm not going to spend too much time on him, just because he is very old school, with the all black, Stormbolter, Crozius, and yeah, and some transfers. Now, I actually could technically run him as Death Company, as like a Death Company chaplain if I needed to, but I prefer to keep Terminators with Terminators. And finally, speaking of keeping Terminators with Terminators, we have a Terminator Librarian. Now, we are going to talk about librarians more in a little bit, but they add some really great buffs. Librarians are basically like psychers. They are the sanctioned psychers, and they are an extremely prized commodity in any Space Marine Legion. That even Lord Dante, who is the chapter master, cannot enter their quarters or chambers in the Arx Angelicum. The Arx Angelicum, by the way, is just like the Blood Angels' home base on Baal. Since librarians of the Blood Angels do have their blue armor, he has a double-sided axe and a massive tome chained to the back of his power pack. But that is it for Terminators. So all in all, there's about 45 Terminators there. Anyway, let us move on. Okay, so next up we have another one of my personal favorites. So these are the Centurions. Now, a Centurion is basically a walking tank. They are almost, if not as strong as Dreadnoughts. I believe they are as strong as some of the older Dreadnoughts, but not the new Primaris ones. And they are big, big lads. Let me just show you guys something for a second. So here is an intercessor compared to a centurion. So these guys actually have quite a few roles, one of which, just based on their size alone, is of a wall of armor. So these guys are great for if you are trying to protect a certain unit or a captain or, a HQ or a character. Literally, you can make a wall of these guys around them, because most things that are not like anti-tank will not even damage them. There are two types of Centurions, aggressors and devastators. Now, there are actually two types of Centurion, Assault Centurions and Devastator Centurions. So the Assault type of Centurion is a melee-focused unit with the, or a smaller version of the drills that you would find on some of the Chaos Space Marine Dreadnoughts, if this will focus. There we go, you can see them there. But they do also still have some flamers attached to them, just in case anyone gets too close. So these guys are brilliant for taking out enemy vehicles. They are strong enough to basically be able to walk right up to them, or if you want to distract the vehicle until like 3 of these things close in on them, they are amazing. So the second type are the Devastators. Now these are your ranged option, and they actually come in a wide variety of different weapon loadouts that you can choose from. Things like grav cannons, heavy bolters, and twin-linked las cannons. For a lot of mine, I just have the twin-linked heavy bolter. I think I have one that has the las cannons, but for the most part, the heavy bolter is perfect. Now, on both the Devastator and the Aggressor, they have these two little things here on their chest, which look like just to be kind of black rectangles, but that is incorrect. These are actually missile launchers that come out of their chest, and both the melee and the ranged version have them, just making them even more deadly. And I love the back of these models, all of the cables and wires and everything, the massive, basically exhaust system they need. And there is something I don't know why I personally find so funny. But I find the idea of a super soldier clad in massive power armor, then climbing into another suit of even bigger power armor. But one thing about these guys is they are very slow, so don't expect to be able to move very fast in game. You will be out in the open a lot, but you have the armor to take the damage. Now, I have 7 of these guys. I believe I have 3 of the three of the aggressors and 4 of the devastators. So 4 ranged, 3 melee. And yeah, that is my devastators, everyone. So I'm actually just now finding another centurion that was mixed up into another pile. And he is one of the devastators, so one of the more ranged oriented ones. He has the dual grav cannons underneath, and I actually made a mistake earlier when I was talking of my devastated terminators. So I said that they all had underslung bolters. Turns out that was incorrect. They actually all have underslung grav cannons. Let me just show you another one. Yeah, so I thought they had the bolters, but turns out they have the grav cannons instead. I must have just swapped them out or something and forgot. But the assault ones, which are the melee ones, still have the flamers. And another mistake that I made was the assault centurions, which are the melee guys. I had said that they all have the flamers underslung on their fists. That was actually a mistake. Only one of them has the flame. Only one of them has the underslung flamer. The rest actually have underslung melters, which I think is even better for close range. But yeah, I just wanted to quickly clear that up. So as you can see, there they are there. So there are 8 in total. Okay, so moving right along, next up we have the aggressors. So the aggressors are a very interesting unit. They are almost like the halfway point between a Terminator and a Centurion that we just covered. They have much heavier armor than the Terminators, and their weapons are built directly into their suits. However, they are still able to move relatively normally. Not super fast, but, you know, not centurion slow. So the way that these guys work is that there are two main weapon options, as well as a weapon that every single person has. Oh, sorry, every single model has. So first up, we have the Bolt Storm gauntlets. So these are these gauntlets here, which are belt fed from these massive ammo drum magazines almost, and then just shot directly from the fist, as well as being able to just punch someone with the fist if they get too close. These guys are actually really good in melee. The other option is a Flamestorm Gauntlet. So this is basically the exact same thing as we saw previously, except instead of a heavy bolter, it is a flamer. So one is great for more elite infantry light vehicles, whereas the other is great for crowds and standard infantry. A really, really good design. Now, some of these guys, most of them, I think the only ones that don't have it are the ones that I have lost it on, have these on top of their model. So these little things on top of the backpack behind their head are Fragstorm grenade launchers. And they are great for taking out crowds of any kind of infantry and even light vehicles. Now, they aren't the strongest rocket out there, but each one of these guys can fire 6. And if you have a squad of them, that's 30 missiles. So if there's an enemy vehicle bothering you, just have all 5 of your aggressor squad target it and blow it into dust. So that's basically it for the aggressors, but leading the aggressors is a unit which is extremely dear to my heart, just based on how rare and how many or how few people I see have it. And that is the Apothecary Biologist. So the biologist is actually an apothecary biologist, but he is not your typical apothecary. Apothecaries heal people and try and fix battlefield aiming, try and fix battlefield ailments, whereas the biologist is more concerned with science projects and experiments and trying to figure out some very bad things by doing some very unpleasant test runs on different medications and concoctions he has. First up, before we actually have a talk about him, let's just have a look at his model. So he has the standard white, the little blood, or not blood, sorry, that is the Medicaid mark on his helmet. You can see some of the green from the glow of some of his weapons. For example, this canister that he has is coming down from this tube to be filled with it, and you can see the glow that I did on his leg. I personally like using sponges to get that glow effect, but that's just me. So this guy, oh, and also he has his flashlight and also his array of medical knives up there. I think that's actually a bone saw. But anyway, he specializes in Gravis units and is actually best suited for use with a squad of aggressors, granting them +1 to all ranged lethal hits, which is absolutely incredible. So of course I picked him for this. This is one of those cases where this is absolutely the unit that I would have leading my aggressors. But that is the aggressors and the biologist done. Let us move on. Okay, so we have covered all of the Gravis and Heavy armored units. So now it's time to move on to the lighter armored Phobos units. So starting us off on our look at the Phobos units for my army, we have the Infiltrators. Now, since they have Phobos armor, they are extremely fast and extremely sneaky. And they also have the infiltrate keyword. So these guys are incredible for taking objectives and holding objectives, and doing so early on mid-game with fairly little issues because of the infiltrate ability. Now, the models are really, really cool. So let me see if I can get this to focus. So this guy here is like your bog standard infiltrator. You can tell the difference between an infiltrator and an intercessor by two things. Is one, they have these little antennae coming out of their charging pack. And two, instead of the standard bolters used by Marines in Tacticus armor, you know, like the intercessors, the Phobos units use a bolt carbine, which, if I remember correctly, does less damage but is much more accurate. So it's a pretty fair trade-off, if you ask me. Two other units that I just wanted to quickly show you. So we have this guy. This is probably my favorite model in the entirety of. So next up we have this guy, who has to be my favorite infiltrator model of my whole set. So this is actually part of the Phobos Infiltrator kill team. And I will say, I personally don't play kill team, but the models that they get, the attention to detail is so cool. So he has his bolt carbine, and he has all of his gear on his chest. But the best part about this is the smoke grenade that he has just activated, and you can see the smoke pouring out of it. Such a cool model. And lastly, we have this guy. So this is a sergeant for the infiltrators. His antennae are a little bit shorter. You can see that he has his pistol out. He has his tactical display on his wrist, his bolt carbine beneath his shoulders, and I will try and get his shoulders to focus, but it's a white shoulder pad with black wings and a red blood drop. And again, he also does not have a helmet. Really cool model, and I love him to bits. I did not think I would actually be a fan of Phobos units when I first started collecting them and hearing about them, but I was wrong. I did a complete 180 on them. Anyway, so we have here about 25 infiltrators, give or take, and leading them, we have two units. So first off, we have our Phobos Captain. So this is him here. He is able to lead any Phobos unit. I don't know if you guys have played Space Marine 2, but Captain Akaran is this model. And I don't mean like, oh, he looks kind of similar. No, they made Captain Akaran look like this model, which I just think is so funny. My one doesn't look like him because he doesn't have the ginger beard. But yeah, he definitely does look like a captain. He has, you know, no helmet. He's giving orders. I don't know if you can see, but part of his face is augmatic. He has a helmet and knife on his back. And he can just do some pretty good buffs for units in Phobos armor. I'm not going to go into all of them because there is a laundry list. But the other unit that is leading this is a Phobos lieutenant. So this is what they look like. Similar to the captain, this guy grants bonuses and buffs to Phobos units that he either leads or commands. He has the typical lieutenant shoulder with a little transfer in the middle of a skull. One of the knives that he has, it's such a good idea, or such a cool idea for a model. He has his wrist screen up with something playing on it. Maybe it's a meme or something. And his gold helmet, of course. But that is it for the infiltrators. Let us move on to their their not so distant cousin, the incursors. So these are my incursors. I have 15 of them, and a lot of people compare them to the infiltrators, and I too am guilty of getting the two confused. However, where the infiltrators are all about stealth, sneaking in, capturing an objective unknown by the enemy, the incursors are all about advancing and active combat, as well as setting up disruptions, causing distractions, and taking out vehicles. Again, they have Phobos armor, so that means that as they are doing this, they are extremely fast in doing so. So these are my two personal favorite incursor models. We'll start with this one. So this guy has the half mask with the goggles that the incursors wear. Again, these guys are close quarters, so I did the half mask in yellow. The knee pads are kind of similar in terms of Blood Angel's heraldry. He has his carbine here with a pretty large scope for it, I have to say. Some grenades, and then his knife. Really cool unit. And also, the incursors have these things on their back. I actually do not know what these are in terms of lore. I don't know if like they're cameras that are recording, or they're scanners, or they are a radar system that feeds into the visor. I don't know, but either way, looks really cool. But this is my favorite incursor model, and you'll soon see why. So first off, he has this massive backpack, huge array, huge camera. He even has his own satellite dish. In one hand, he carries his bolt carbine. He has the standard stuff on him. He has a half face mask. He has the grenades and the skull with the black undersuit showing. But the main reason I like him is that he is just casually carrying around an anti-tank mine. And I have a few models like this. I believe I have 3. And I don't know why. I just think it's so funny. And that's why I love him so much. Because he'll just run up and just place us down in front of a tank, and the tank just explodes. It's amazing, and that's why I love these guys. So, like I mentioned, I have 15 incursors. So, as for who is leading these guys, let's start off with this guy. So this is a captain for my Blood Angels, and I did not know this when I bought this unit, but apparently this is a limited edition. I believe this one was only handed out at some kind of Warhammer convention or tournament. I managed to find one on eBay that was unpainted and unassembled for a fairly decent price. You know, it wasn't cheap, but it wasn't like ridiculous. It was like, I think it was a couple €100. But either way, I got him, and then I found out later when I brought him to the hobby shop to play a game, people were like, oh my god, I cannot believe that you actually have this guy. So, looking at him, he has one of the Imperial signs on his armor, his gold helmet with the Laurel, a plasma pistol, and a power fist. Absolutely great unit, and this loincloth attached to this massive belt. Such a good unit. Next up, we have another Phobos Lieutenant. I'm not going to spend too much time on him because we already talked about it. He is the exact same. Only difference is this guy's mask is gold instead of the red of the previous one. And this is just a firstborn lieutenant that I had that I didn't know where else to put. But yeah, that is my incursors. Let's move on to the Reavers. So next up we have my Reavers. Now, Reavers are again another Phobos unit, and their main purpose is to capture both primary and secondary objectives while causing havoc in the back lines of the enemy. However, they still can be used as frontline troops as well. Now, unfortunately, Reavers have this thing where they are some of the coolest looking models there is, with their skull helmets and their knives and everything, like this guy here, if I can get it to focus, with his massive knife, his bolt carbine, and the signature thing for the Reavers is their skull helmet. And again, close quarters unit, so he has a yellow helmet, and this guy is in fact a sergeant. The reason I say that it is deceptive and kind of disappointing is that Reavers are not very good units currently. That may change in the upcoming 11th edition, and I hope it does. But as it stands now, they are the coolest looking Primaris unit, but also the worst in terms of gameplay. Apart from that, though, they are really good. I still really like them. I barely ever use them, if at all, just because they are that bad compared to other units, even the other Phobos units. But still, it's good to have. So, it's hard to see just because of the pile here, but I have about 20 or 20, sorry, I believe it's 20 Reavers all in all, with 5 Death Company Reavers, which are just Reavers painted in the Death Company colors. So if I did ever need more Reavers, I have them. They are just painted as Death Company and can still be used as normal Reavers. But that's really it for the Reavers. As for who I have leading my Reavers, we first have this guy. So this is the Reaver Lieutenant. He is specifically for leading Reavers. He has this cool mohawk with a kind of skull mask with half of his face being an augment with an augmented eye. He has this great knife. He has the lieutenant shoulder pad. And yeah, however, because I don't actually use Reavers, I use this guy as my second Phobos captain for guys such as the Incursors. And the other unit that I have leading them is another Phobos lieutenant. So again, we went over him a couple times already. He's got the knife, he's got the head, he's got the bolt carbine, and yeah, so just technically they are both lieutenants, but I use the Reaver Lieutenant as just a Phobos captain. Let's move on to our next group, the Eliminators. So these are my Eliminators, and I only have 6 of them. They are not really in the type of playstyle that I play, and they also aren't that close to the Blood Angels method of play, but I still really like them, and I still wanted to just have a few of them in my army. So, Eliminators are the Space Marine snipers. They specialize in taking out key targets from a distance. being able to take control of distant objectives without having to get too close, and even with their bolt sniper rifles, being able to do some decent damage to enemy heavy vehicles and aircraft, which is so cool. It reminds me a lot of the sniper in Halo Reach, how it was both anti-infantry but could also shred vehicles. So let me show you two of them. So this is one of them here. As you can see, he has his massive bolt sniper, and he is looking through a magnifying device to presumably spot his target. They all come with these massive capes, which the power pack sits on top of, which is so cool. And the other one that I wanted to show you is this guy. So this guy is not looking through any kind of device. He is just scoped in, waiting for a target to pop his head up. Most of them are in this crouched position, which really adds to the whole sniper thing. And they have their cape as well as these hoods. Most of them have hoods. I opted to paint mine, since they're Blood Angels, with the armor being red and the cape being black, but sometimes I have the cape black with red stripes, just for quote-unquote camouflage. But that's really all there is to say about the Eliminators. Now, who is leading my Eliminators? So, leading my Eliminators are my Librarians. I actually did not know this. Apparently, Librarians are excellent for leading Librarians due to the buffs that they grant. So, this guy here is my main Librarian. Now, again, he is a Blood Angel, but Blood Angels Librarians have blue armor. So that's why he is blue. However, I did give him a red shoulder pad. And he has this kind of cool, not a mohawk, but like a helmet crest. He has this psychic hood, which all psychers have, or Space Marine psychers have, sorry. He does have a sword, but his main offensive abilities are his psychic powers, like casting lightning and stuff like that. Really cool, and he also comes in these robes, which I just did a standard, what's it called, kind of cloth color with a little bit of red, just to make it seem like there's maybe a bit of blood splatter on it. Now, my second librarian, I actually made a mistake with him. So this librarian was the first librarian I got for my Blood Angels, and at the time I did not know that my Blood Angel librarian's armor is blue, so I did it in red instead. However, to try and make up for this, because I thought I did a pretty good job painting the red and I didn't want to mess things up, I did his robes in blue, so at least there is some blue to him after all. Same thing as before, he has his sword, but his main offensive abilities come from his psychic powers. Next, for the librarians, is the librarian in Phobos armor. So this guy... So before we talk about him, let's just look at this model, because it's one of my favorites of the entire Phobos line. So again, similar to the previous librarian, I got him before I knew that Blood Angels librarians were blue. So I did the same thing, and I painted his robes and his hood blue. So the main difference, other than the armor, this guy being in Phobos armor means he's a lot faster and, stealthier, but also weaker. Whereas the standard librarians that we just looked at specialize in combat buffs and invulnerability saves, this guy focuses on stealth, board control, and objective management and control. He's really good at taking objectives. So yeah, that is it for these types of librarians. However, there is one more character that we need to talk about while we're here, and he is super important to any Blood Angels army. And that model is none other than Mephiston, the Lord of Death. So Mephiston is one of the 4 named Blood Angels characters that are still playable, and he is the chief librarian of the Blood Angels. So technically he commands the Librarius and everything like that. He has his famed sword Vitalis, or is it? It's either Vitalis or Vitalis, I cannot remember. He is also the most powerful Psyker in the Imperium. Like, bar none, not even close. The second strongest is nowhere near as strong as Mephiston is. So his model got an amazing glow up. You can see these vials of blood on his person. He has this amazing flowing cloak, pale white hair. Why will this not focus? There we go. Pale blonde hair, this massive kind of collar with skulls on it. He also has a plasma pistol, by the way. So the cloak goes all the way around up onto the collar. And what makes Mephiston famous, and what most people will know about him, is that he is the only person in the history of the Blood Angels or any Space Marine with Sanguinius's gene seed, is that he is the only person ever to have fallen to the Black Rage and come back. Not come back like the Martys, where he still has the Black Rage, but just essentially deals with it through willpower. I'm talking about full on, just it. He completely cured himself of it, which was unheard of. Another interesting thing about Mephiston is that Mephiston is actually the second name that he has. When he joined the Blood Angels, his name was Calistarius. And during his battles, he ended up fighting in Armageddon on Hades' Hive. And during the battle, he was crushed underneath rubble and presumed dead. However, when he emerged after people found him, he had zero memory of ever being Calistarius and went by Mephiston from there on out. Also, I forgot to mention his armor. So his chest plate is fashioned after a skinned torso where you can see the muscle. And he has some really ornate shoulder pads, one being a skull with the Blood Angel's fangs, and the other just being a very decorative Blood Angel's symbol. So yeah, that is Mephiston, the Lord of Death. Next up, and I am not going to spend too much time on these guys because personally I don't even like them that much. These are scouts. So a scout is essentially a Space Marine in training. Once you have been selected to join or become a Space Marine, if this will focus, after you are given all of your augmentations, before you are given the black carapace and your power armor, you serve as a scout for at least a year, and then you are given the rest to become a full battle brother. I am not a fan of these guys. Gameplay-wise, they do have a decent purpose. They are great chaff, and they are great for taking objectives, but I'm not a fan of them. I just have them in my army just so that I can technically say I have them in case I ever need them. But other than that, I would not have them. They do come with a wide array of weapons. The standard ones just have bolters, but you also have ones with missile launchers, with sniper rifles, and in this guy's case, a heavy bolter. So I have 10 scouts altogether. No, sorry, 15 scouts. Actually, I can't remember if it's 10 or 15, but yeah, that's it for those guys. I don't even have anyone leading them. That's how little I care about scouts. So yeah, let us move on to a unit that is actually cool. Now, before we move on to our next group of units, there are two models that I wanted to show you. Now, technically both of these can be, or at least one of them can be a leader unit, but the datasheet actually makes a point that they work better alone. So the first one is this guy here, if it will focus. This is the lieutenant with combi weapon. So he is an extremely detailed model. He has two knives, one in this hand which is clean, and one in this hand which is covered in blood. He has some Tyranid chitin on one of his shoulders, so obviously he's just been killing some nids, as well as lots of straps and ammo, grenades, and so forth on his person, as well as lots of holsters. I believe he also has a pistol too, I just don't know where it is. And then here is his combi weapon. So this is a combi bolter, so it's half a bolter and half a flamer. This is a model that I actually only got recently. This is the one I was waiting on to arrive to make this video, and I love him so much. And the other model is this guy. So this guy is a Justicia, or Justica, I don't know which is the correct way to say it. This is a very rare and very niche model. What he does is he has power over time. And what that basically just means in terms of gameplay is if you bring him to a match and you field him, it means that you go first automatically, which is really cool. I actually don't know what happens if two players field him, if they cancel each other out or what happens, but I would assume that would be the case. And he also has this massive maul. Now, pretty much all of this model is custom and kit bashed. So the standard Justicia model, by the way, I'm just going to say Justicia. If I am wrong, I do apologize. Please correct me in the comments. But the standard model I did not like at all. And it definitely did not suit the Blood Angels. It looked very rough. His armor was mismatched. He didn't have a fancy half mask covering his face. He just simply had a cloth mask from the nose down. And he carried over his shoulder a massive two-handed power sword, which was, I believe, actually ended in a square. Like, it wasn't a tipped sword, it was just like a massive rectangle. So I went out of my way to kit bash this guy, basically to make him all Blood Angels all the way. So I got rid of the hourglass that he was holding, replaced it with this skull sensor. I got rid of his head with the half cloth mask and gave him a sanguinary priest head. I don't know if you can see, but the blood gems, there's 5 of them circling around the top of his helmet crest. Instead of the sword, I gave him this maul. And he does also have a chainsword as well, but that was just part of the model, and I didn't want to damage it by cutting it off. But yeah, I just wanted to quickly get these two models mentioned, so that is it. Let's continue on. Okay, so next up we have my Inceptors. Now, the Inceptors are the first of the flying units, and by flying units, I mean ones that come with flight stands. I know the jump pack intercessors are flight units, but these ones are ones that came with the flight stand. However, both the Inceptors and another similar unit that came with flying stands. Some of them I have taken off the flying stands and just glued to the bases because I absolutely hate those little flimsy flying stands from GW. Anyway, what are Inceptors? So Inceptors are units that are incredible. Their best use is deep striking the enemy, but they can deep strike much further than most other units. They're able to deep strike right behind enemy lines to where some of the commanders might be and take them out, as well as deep strike into enemy fortifications and secondary objectives and primary objectives. So these guys are just great for basically jumping all the way across the map, getting their objective done, whether that's killing a captain or securing an objective and then teleporting on to the next one. So for weapons, these guys have two choices. They have the assault bolters or the plasma exterminators. I have 9 of these guys as they come in sets of 3. And 6 of them have the assault bolters as they are usually the better choice. However, I do have 1 squad of 3 with the plasma exterminators, so we'll start with the plasma exterminators first. So this is him here. As you can see, he has these 2 massive plasma SMGs. They're not quite plasma rifles and they're not plasma pistols, as they are fully automatic. And you can see the power cords leading into his backpack and his flight jets and everything. Really cool model. Again, these guys, I actually thought that these guys would have blue helmets, but no, they are, because they are because they use close quarters weapons, they have yellow helmets. And also this guy is a sergeant, so I also tried to do, it may not be apparent on this one, but some of the other ones, I tried to do a plasma glow effect. I don't know if you can see it there on his knee. Again, I just use a sponge for this, as I feel it's a lot more authentic than just painting it on. And the other guy is this guy, who has the assault bolters. So this is them here. They are these bolters that are in SMG form, kind of like a bolter version of an Uzi. And the assault bolters have these really cool shields on the front of them. I don't know if this actually does anything in game. I doubt it, but it just adds so much character to them. And, you know, this guy has 1 tube going into his gun, but since it's not plasma, he has no need for all those cables. So that is my Inceptors. Now, who do I have leading them? I have this captain, which is a custom kit bash that I finished about 2 weeks ago. So we have the flag of a captain of the Sanguinary Guard, which I found in the spare bits pile at my local game shop. He does not have a helmet. As I did run out of helmets eventually, and I didn't want to spend 12 euro at Archie's Forge just for one guy. So he has a power fist and a plasma pistol. And similar to the Inceptors with the plasma, you can see some of the glow on his armor. You can see the glow from the pistol on the tilt shield, and you can see the glow on part of his armor beneath the power fist. Now the idea is that he is overcharging the plasma pistol to the point that it's about to explode. That's why it's shining bright back on him. But yeah, this is a very unique model, and it's always cool making a model that is really high quality and knowing that you are the only person in the world who has it. So that is it for the Inceptors. Let's move on to our other flying units, the Suppressors. So these are my Suppressors, and I currently have 6 of them. So Suppressors are very mobile, very agile, again, great at deep striking. They are armed with something called a heavy accelerated autocannon, which is kind of like a 50 cal gun on steroids. So let me pick one up for you. And again, I got rid of the flight bases for a lot of these guys. So they come with these massive, massive guns, and because of their abilities of being able to fly, they're able to fly around, being very agile, dealing massive damage to basically every single kind of unit because of this weapon. They can punch through elite infantry, they can punch through heavy armor, and stuff like that. So they aren't very popular. In fact, they are so unpopular that there's a massive rumor currently that Games Workshop is about to make these guys legends, which I really hope they don't do, as I really like them. But yeah, that's really the main thing, is just going around wherever they're needed, providing fire support and dealing with key targets and vehicles. And yeah, that's basically it for them. And as for who is leading them, we have our second jump pack chaplain. So we already went over a jump pack chaplain earlier. Not going to spend too much time on it because this video is long enough as it is, but again, you know, it's a chaplain, a little bit more aggressive and a lot more mobile due to the jump pack. Also, one thing that I did forget to show you, I'm very tired, I cannot speak. So this is my standard paint job I did for them. Not the standard Blood Angels color scheme, but mainly gold with red accents. However, just because I thought it would look cool, I did 2 of them in Death Company colors. Now, these units cannot be used in Death Company because they are flying units. This one even still has the flying stand, but you can see the face, him there. I just thought it would be cool, and I think they turned out really cool. I've never seen anyone online or met anyone who has suppressors painted like Death Company. Anyway, let's continue. Alright, so we are almost done with the infantry, and I have saved the most elite units for last. So let's get started. So first up, we have the Sanguinary Guard. So currently I have 6 Sanguinary Guard, and they are another Blood Angels exclusive unit. And they are some of, if not the most powerful non-character Space Marines, or Space Marine units in the game currently. And it's been that way for some time and through some editions. So they make excellent bodyguards for important characters, such as captains or named characters. They are able to deep strike. They excel in melee combat. They have 2 weapons, the Encarmined Sword and the Encarmined Spear. Both of them some of the highest stats melee weapons in the game. And they also equally excel at firepower, using a weapon called the Angelus Bolt Gun. But these guys can do pretty much anything. They can take objectives. There's nothing that they really can't do except for maybe infiltrate, but that's not their purpose. So, like I said, I have 16 of these guys. The first 10 that I have are the older Sanguinary Guard. They were the first ones that I got when I first got my army. But recently, like 2 or 3 months ago, I decided to finally get 2 squads of the new Sanguinary Guard. and there's been a lot of hate from people about them. And on one hand, I do see it. Like, I think the difference between the wings on the old and the new ones are, like, really drastic, and the new ones' wings are basically non-existent. But you will see that when we do a comparison. So, let's start off by looking at some of the new Sanguinary Guard. So we're not going to go through all of them, but just a few. So this is one guy here. This is one guy here with his Angelus bolt gun and his Encarmined spear. As you can see, it looks absolutely solid. They have these death masks very similar to Lord Dante, as well as having the muscular styled chest plates. They have these really cool shoulder pads. One is usually gold with a white emblem, and the other is usually red with a white emblem, as well as having their jump pack. Now, these two things here, those are their wings, and soon you will see why people are disappointed with that. Next one that I want to show you is this guy. So very similar, Angelus bolt gun, and this guy has an Encarmined sword or Encarmined blade. So they both do very different things and are good for different purposes. Again, same as the previous model, he has the same death mask helmet, the same blood droplet in the middle of his chest, and the same shoulder pad design and jump pack design. Now, I just want to quickly explain the difference between the Encarmined blades or swords and the Encarmined spears. So, if I get anything wrong, I do apologize. I'm just doing this through memory. So, for the swords, I believe they have a higher number of attacks and better armor penetration, which makes them really good at just carving their way through infantry, elite infantry, and medium to light armored vehicles. While the Encarmined spear, on the other hand, or lance, so the spear, on the other hand, has less armor penetration and fewer attacks than the sword, but it does have the lance keyword, which means that it gives a +1 to wounding on charges, and these are great for punching through heavier armored infantry, such as Terminators, and heavier armored vehicles like tanks. So they are both very good at what they do. The important thing is making sure that you use the right one for the right job. But even still, if you use the wrong one or the wrong type of weapon, it's still a Sanguinary Guard. You know, you're still gonna win like 90% of the time. And the last new Sanguinary Guard model we're gonna take a look at is this guy. So this is the Sanguinary Guard Captain. So again, he has his Angelus bolt gun, except he does not have a melee weapon, or not a traditional melee weapon for that matter. So this is the banner that he carries with him, which is like one of the Blood Angels banners, and this is what I use to make that captain that is leading my Inceptors. Now, he does actually have a melee weapon, and I did not realize this at first when I first got him. Technically, this is a spear. I thought this was just a, what's it called? I thought this was just a flag, but no, he does have the Encarmined spear, which is really, really cool. And then for the old Sanguinary Guard, I'm just going to show you these two models here just to kind of keep things moving along. So this is an example of one of the old ones. So again, this one has a melter pistol instead of the previous pistol that the new Sanguinary Guard have. as well as an encarmine blade. Now, he has a helmet. This is the helmet. Sorry. Now, for his helmet, he has a death mask similar to the new Sanguinary God and Lord Dante, but this one is a little bit different. It's a different face and it has a much bigger crest on top. This is the type of helmet that I used to make the Judicia with the bloodstones in it and everything. Now, this is their jump pack and their wings. Now, these wings are not real. They are just part of their armor. But they do still come with like these full-fledged wings and this really cool, massive, singular jump pack. Compared to the new ones, where are they? Which just have the generic jump pack. Nothing wrong with this. I know a lot of people do not like the new jump pack. I actually really like it. But I think that the old ones, just having a different one than standard, is pretty cool. And the other old Sanguinary God I wanted to show you is this guy. So this guy, again, has an encarmine blade and all of the details that you would expect: the highly inlaid armor, the wings, the jump pack, everything, except he has a banner. So this guy still can fight as well as every other model in the team, whether it's a 5-man or a 10-man. But he can also give buffs to them. So he's kind of almost like an ancient in a way, in terms of a flag that gives buffs, but is also still able to fight as well as the other Sanguinary God. So that's it for the Sanguinary God. I love these guys, and models like this make me so happy that I chose Blood Angels for my army. Now, as for who I have leading my Sanguinary God, I have 2 units that I do use to lead them, and I have another one that I just put here just because his paint job made it that he would fit in. So we'll start with him first. This is yet another old Sanguinary Priest, except this is a massive kit bash that I did. He is absolutely, there's really no other way to put this, pimped out. He has the gold helmet, he has the knives, his amazing sword, a fur cloak, massive halo, a cloak of feathers on top of his fur cloak, and this huge halo around his head, not to mention the goblet, which does actually have the bloodstones in them. So apart from that, while he does look really cool and really different, he is still the old Sanguinary God, Sanguinary Priest model, and serves the same roles that he does. So next up, time for the real leading units of the Sanguinary God. So first up, we have the Sanguinor. Now, this is still the old Sanguinor model. I haven't gotten around to getting the new one yet. But the Sanguinor is a character who is steeped in mystery. No one knows exactly who or what it is. All that is known about it is that it is not human and it is not of this dimension. The most popular theory is that this is Sanguinius's will made manifest, or the reincarnation of Sanguinius, because he has a habit in lore of appearing whenever the chapter needs him most, and he also shows himself to the most promising people of the Blood Angels so that they can rise high and influence the chapter. So essentially he, despite not being able to speak, he only spoke once in a book. He does actually technically have sway over who becomes chapter master or captain or whatever, because people who he believes are the correct choice will be visited by him or will catch glimpses of him. Now, like I said, in lore, he has the ability to just appear in combat where at any place in any time, and help the chapter. Now that translates to the game too. So when you want to use the Sanguinor, you can place him anywhere on the board, and I do mean anywhere, which is just such a cool mechanic. And then after that, he just leaves. I don't know if there's actually much more to it or if he has any other mechanics, but that's just the one I'm most familiar with. And he is really good at what he does. He has his sword, he has his chalice, and yeah. Now, last thing about the Sanguinor is he has wings. And on the old Sanguinor model, which this is, the wings are the same model as the wings on the old Sanguinary God. The Sanguinary God's wings are ornamental. They are made of metal, and they're not real wings. The Sanguinor's wings are also made of metal because the Sanguinor is actually a statue, but they are real wings. He is absolutely able to fly as well as having a jump pack. But that's enough about the Sanguinor. Let's move on to the final leader of the Sanguinary God and the most important character and unit in any Blood Angels army. So that model and unit that I was talking about is none other than Commander Dante, the chapter master for the Blood Angels, and one of the greatest heroes in the Imperium. He is absolutely legendary across the entire Imperium for his deeds, as well as being the oldest living space marine. He is 1,500 years old, and one of the things that they actually talk about in the books, which is really interesting, is that no one knows what happens to a space marine this old. That, they were designed to be quote-unquote immortal, but under the assumption that none of them would actually live that long. And now that someone has lived that long, no one knows what happens. Like, are they gonna start failing internally like a normal old person, or will the space marine genetics keep them going, and for how much longer? Some more lore stuff about Commander Dante is after the battle of the Baal system, after the invasion of Hive Fleet Behemoth of the Tyranids, he and his men were saved by Lord Guilliman of the Ultramarines. Now, Lord Guilliman is the Imperial Regent, and after the fall of Cadia and the Cicatrix Maledictum split the galaxy in two, Baal lies in a section, which is essentially half the galaxy, called Imperium Nihilus. So, Rabute Guilliman named Dante the Imperial Regent of Imperium Nihilus, while Guilliman is the regent of his sector. I can't remember what his sector is. I think it might be Ultima, but I don't know. But yeah, that is really it about Dante. He has two legendary weapons. The Axe Mortalis, which keen-eyed people will have seen that it is facing the wrong way. That is because it snapped off and I accidentally glued it on the wrong way. And also the Perdition Pistol, which is like a melta pistol on steroids. If you've ever read any of the Blood Angels books, he literally just points it, and whatever he points it at just turns into ash. It's almost like a scene from the manga Blam, if you've read that. But anyway, that's enough lore. Let's talk about Dante in game. So as you can imagine, Lord Dante is one of the strongest, if not the strongest, single units in definitely the Blood Angels army, maybe the Space Marines army entirely, I'm not sure. But he is capable of doing many things. He can fight close quarters, he can deep strike, he can use his jump pack to speed around, but what he is the best use for him is to have him lead a unit of Sanguinary Guard. The Sanguinary Guard gain a massive buff when they are being led by Dante, and Dante gets a massive buff when he is leading Sanguinary Guard. So the two go together really well, and because they all have jump packs, they're able to deep strike and do whatever. So yeah, that is Commander Dante. I don't know if you can make out the laurel on the model, but yeah, I absolutely love Dante as a character, and compared to the old model, which I had when I made my first Blood Angels showcase video, this model is so much better in literally every other way, or every possible way. Okay, let's move on. So now we are moving on to the 3 veterans. So we are starting off with the Blade Guard veterans, which are some of my favorite units in the Space Marine range. So these guys are basically pure melee. They do have either a plasma pistol or a bolt pistol, but their main use is melee. And I currently have 15 of them, but here's just 2 I wanted to quickly show you as examples. So this is one of them here. So as you can see, they have the gold helmets as a veteran. They have these loincloths going up all the way to their chest. These tilt shields with power swords, iron halos, and tower shields. I think there actually might be a Warhammer specific name for them, but they are basically just tower shields. So they are extremely tough. They have an extremely good save due to the shield, and they are just incredible in melee. They are basically able to cut down all but the strongest of infantry. And by strongest, I mean like someone like Dante or anything, but whether it be a scout or a terminator, these guys can just cut through them like chaff, which is kind of terrifying if you think about it. And the other one I wanted to show you is just this guy, slightly different paint job. This one is a bit more darker red, and whereas the other one's shield was inlaid with white, this one's inlaid with black, but both have the gold trim. Again, tilt shields, purity seals. Oh, I forgot to mention that they all have purity seals all over them. All of the veterans do. They have these little marks and skulls on their knee pads. I really like the bit of cloth that goes from their breastplate all the way down to their feet. And yeah, same deal. A lot of them have whatever their shoulder pad color is, it is trimmed in gold. So this guy is a sergeant with the black shoulders, but you can still see the gold trim there. So absolutely great models. So first up for who is leading my Blade Guard veterans is this model here. Now this model goes by 2 names, either the Blade Guard Lieutenant or the Lieutenant with Relic Shield. I usually just call him the Blade Guard Lieutenant. Now, because these guys have very detailed shoulders, that aren't just paint jobs but are actually part of the mold. Instead of doing the lieutenant shoulder color scheme, I did it instead on their tilt shield. So you can see this is his shield here and his plasma pistol. I don't know if you can make it out, but there's actually a purity seal on his, what's it called? I don't know if you can make this out, but there's actually a purity seal on his tilt shield. And again, veteran, the Blade Guards are veterans with golden helmets. This guy is a commander who also has a gold helmet. But he also has this chalice on top of his power pack, which a lot of Blood Angels do, and I just think it's one of the coolest looks ever. In my opinion, I think it looks cooler than the Iron Halo. Now, I have 3 of these models, and they are all painted exactly the same, including the lieutenant markings on the tilt shield. So I'm not going to show you them all, I just wanted to show you this one. But yeah, let's move on. So for the next leader of the Blade Guards, we have the Captain with Relic Shield, one of my favorite Captain models. So, he gives massive bonuses and buffs to other units in melee, and also units, I believe, that also have Relic Shields. That is what these tower shields are called, by the way, Relic Shields. So this is their captain. This guy, you know, you can use him with whatever units you want. Like, I could use him with my assault intercessors and it would still work. But he's pretty much made unofficially to lead the Blade Guard veterans. And unlike the other shields, this guy has a skeleton in it. Now, I believe this is the skeleton of a saint that is used for warding and good luck and favor from the Emperor. Again, gold helmet, really detailed body with lots of medals and ornaments, and this kind of weird looking iron halo with a gold skull in the middle. Gold helmet because he is a captain. And similar to the lieutenants, I do have a second one of him. But again, he is identical paint job wise, so just to speed things along, I'm only showing you this one. Now, there's one last leader unit for my my Blade Guard veterans, so let's move on to him. Hey, so just Crimson from the future. So I completely forgot about this when I was doing the Blade Guard section of the video. I have a second captain with Relic Shield, but I could not find him for the life of me. And now that I'm cleaning up, I'm after finding him. So I just wanted to quickly make this just to show you him. He is a lot more grim dark than the one you guys saw in the video. His helmet and everything, there's a lot more black, you know, like his shield is rimmed in black instead of white and gold. The fabric on him is more black, and the purity seals are much more of a kind of washed out look. And he has this stripe, or this kind of like almost safety stripe thing on his tilt shield. So yeah, and also the skeleton on his shield looks almost more like a decomposing corpse rather than a skeleton. But yeah, I just wanted to quickly show you guys this. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the video.
Hello again, this is Crimson from the future. So as I am editing, I am currently on the Blade Guard section, and I realized I forgot to include a character and a model in the units that lead my Blade Guard, and that is the Company Champion. Now, the Company Champion
isn't exactly a unit that I would actually use to lead Blade Guard. However, once you find out what this unit is all about, it makes perfect sense to pair him with the Blade Guard. So this guy is an extremely insane melee unit. He excels in things like single combat and dispatching tough enemies, elite infantry, named characters. You name it, this guy can kill it. And he's also really good at being a bodyguard for certain units that might need protection, whether this being high-ranking captains or named characters. And yeah, so that's him. So as I mentioned in the very beginning of this video, when we were looking at the tactical marines, I have a few company champions that I kit bashed using the firstborn units. Was this model? This is the official company champion model, and the model itself is great. He has this amazing two-handed stance. I think I did a good job on the blade. He has this gold helmet. I gave his Laurel some greenery. Originally it was gold, but I don't like having gold Laurels on gold helmets. He has a very different style of helmet compared to what you would see in a modern Blood Angels army, but to me that just adds to his character. So yeah, I just wanted to quickly show this and include this, as it was a mistake and a complete oversight on my part while filming. Anyway, back to the video. And that final leader unit for the Blade Guard is this guy. So this guy is a Blade Guard Ancient. So there's really not that much to say about him. He is basically an Ancient. He serves the exact same purpose, but only for Blade Guard. That's it. Similar bonuses, similar buffs, but just for Blade Guard, and because they're just for one unit, they are much stronger buffs than your average Ancient. He has this sword, which is strange. It's just like a rectangle. This is similar to the sword that I was talking about that the original Judiciar had, that I swapped for the mace. And the banner, if you can call it that, is half a flag and half a skeleton, again of a saint, with purity seals all around it. So both the Blade Guard flag and the Blade Guard captain have holy skeletons and remains on their shields. And he also just has this kind of nice looking armor with like this half cloth look to it. Really, really cool. But anyway, that is it for my Blade Guard veterans. Let us move on. Okay, so these aren't veterans, but we're just gonna do a quick little rundown of them. So these are my Devastators. So Devastators are all tactical marines that have heavy weapons. I'm really not going to try and spend too much time on them because I'm trying to go as quick as I can for this video. But these guys all have heavy weapons. So I have some with las cannons, which are my favorite since I tend to use these exclusively for anti-tank. So this is one of them here with his las cannon, again, blue helmet. And then just for the other weapons that those models have, so we have this guy, who has a multi-melter. We have this guy, who has a heavy grav cannon. And we have this guy, who has a heavy plasma incinerator. So all really good. I believe there's maybe one or two that have a heavy bolter, but that is it. I just don't want to spend too much time on those guys because they're just guys with heavy weapons. I have around 25 of those, and I mainly just use the las cannons. So the Desolation Squad was the Primaris attempt at replacing these guys, but the las cannon is so much better than the crack grenade launcher that the Desolation Squad guys have. Anyway, that is it for them. Back to the veterans. Okay, so next for my veterans, we have my Stern Guard veterans. So Stern Guard veterans are the pinnacle of the chapter. They are the best warriors and the best shots, most successful, most mission complete rates. They are the best of the best of the best. And whereas the Blade Guards are that, but for melee, Stern Guards are that for just standard weapons that you would find in a Space Marine army. So I have 25 of these. 20 of them are the new Primaris version, and 5 are some of the older ones. What's really cool about these Stern Guard veterans, both in-game and in lore, is that they customize their weapons and their equipment so much to the point that, you know, other non-Stern Guard in the chapter wouldn't be allowed to do so. But they basically get free reign to make their loadout and equipment to best suit them. So you can equip all sorts of weapons to them. You can give them plasma rifles, you can give them combi weapons, you can give them heavy weapons, and so on. It's completely up to you. I've seen less of that ever since the Primaris versions came out. But yeah, so this is them here, but I selected a couple out just to give you guys a show of what some of them look like. So let's start off with this guy. So for our first look at a Stern Guard veteran, so this is a sergeant, and as you can see, he has a similar thing to the Blade Guard veterans with the cloth that goes up all the way to his breastplate. He has a tilt shield, and he is in this pose of having his bolt pistol drawn while his melter is under his arm. This is what I was talking about when I was saying that, you know, they can use a variety of weapons. So this guy in particular has a melter. Really, really cool. My other sergeants, I believe, just have Stern Guard bolt rifles, which are just bolt rifles or bolters that just have better stats, basically. Here's another quick example of a sergeant, and I was actually wrong. It's not a melter, it's just the Stern Guard bolt rifle, but that would be cool either way. So that's it with the sergeants. I want to show you guys some of the standard infantry. So this is what a standard Stern Guard veteran looks like, or at least the new models anyway. With their backpack, they have the same cloth thing, golden helmets, a Stern Guard bolt rifle. In this case, this guy has one with a higher capacity magazine. And yeah, really cool. They are covered in pouches and holsters. This is where he has his pistol and is covered in purity seals and everything in between. Symbols on his knees, symbols on his shoulder pads, and everything. So yeah. For the next guy I want to show you is this guy. So he is just another standard Stern Guard veteran. However, the only difference is this guy has a heavy bolter. Now, this used to be only that Devastators could have, but not anymore. So as you can see, he has the pipes going down from his charging pack all the way down to his heavy bolter. Really cool to have this available. And yeah, like I said, they can take pretty much any weapon. However, the melters, the stern guard, bolt rifle, and the heavy bolter are like the main three. So there's just 2 more units I want to show you for the stern guard veterans. So next is this guy. So he is a custom sergeant that I made. So he has his bolter under his arm. Basically an ancient. He serves the exact same purpose, but only for Blade Guard. That's it. Similar bonuses, similar buffs, but just for Blade Guard, and because they're just for one unit, they are much stronger buffs than your average ancient. He has this sword, which is strange. It's just like a rectangle. This is similar to the sword that I was talking about, that the original Judicia had, that I swapped for the mace. And the banner, if you can call it that, is half a flag and half a skeleton, again of a saint, with purity seals all around it. So both the Blade Guard flag and the Blade Guard captain have holy skeletons and remains on their shields. And he also just has this kind of nice looking armor with like this half cloth look to it. Really, really cool. But anyway, that is it for my Blade Guard veterans. Let us move on. Okay, so these aren't veterans, but we're just gonna do a quick little rundown of them. So these are my Devastators. So Devastators are all tactical marines that have heavy weapons. I'm really not gonna try and spend too much time on them because I'm trying to go as quick as I can for this video. But these guys all have heavy weapons. So I have some with las cannons, which are my favorite since I tend to use these exclusively for anti-tank. So this is one of them here with his las cannon, again, blue helmet. And then just for the other weapons that those models have, so we have this guy, who has a multi-melter. We have this guy, who has a heavy grav cannon. And we have this guy, who has a heavy plasma incinerator. So all really good. I believe there's maybe 1 or 2 that have a heavy bolter. But that is it. I just don't want to spend too much time on those guys because they're just guys with heavy weapons. I have around 25 of those, and I mainly just use the las cannons. So the Desolation Squad was the Primaris attempt at replacing these guys, but the las cannon is so much better than the crack grenade launcher that the Desolation Squad guys have. Anyway, that is it for them. Back to the veterans. Okay, so next for my veterans, we have my Stern Guard veterans. So Stern Guard veterans are the pinnacle of the chapter. They are the best warriors and the best shots, most successful, most mission complete rates. They are the best of the best of the best. And whereas the Blade Guards are that, but for melee, Stern Guards are that for just standard weapons that you would find in a Space Marine army. So I have 25 of these. 20 of them are the new Primaris version, and 5 are some of the older ones. What's really cool about these Stern Guard veterans, both in-game and in lore, is that they customize their weapons and their equipment so much, to the point that, you know, other non-Stern Guard in the chapter wouldn't be allowed to do so. But they basically get free reign to make their loadout and equipment to best suit them. So you can equip all sorts of weapons to them. You can give them plasma rifles, you can give them combi weapons, you can give them heavy weapons, and so on. It's completely up to you. I've seen less of that ever since the Primaris versions came out. But yeah, so this is them here, but I selected a couple out just to give you guys a show of what some of them look like. So let's start off with this guy. So for our first look at a Stern Guard veteran, so this is a sergeant, and as you can see, he has a similar thing to the Blade Guard veterans with the cloth that goes up all the way to his breastplate. He has a tilt shield, and he is in this pose of having his bolt pistol drawn while his melter is under his arm. This is what I was talking about when I was saying that, you know, they can use a variety of weapons. So this guy in particular has a melter. Really, really cool. My other sergeants, I believe, just have Stern Guard bolt rifles, which are just bolt rifles or bolters that just have better stats, basically. Here's another quick example of a sergeant, and I was actually wrong. It's not a melter, it's just the Stern Guard bolt rifle, but that would be cool either way. So, that's it with the sergeants. I want to show you guys some of the standard infantry. So this is what a standard Stern Guard veteran looks like, or at least the new models anyway. With their backpack, they have the same cloth thing, golden helmets, a Stern Guard bolt rifle. In this case, this guy has one with a higher capacity magazine. And yeah, really cool. They are covered in pouches and holsters. This is where he has his pistol, and is covered in purity seals and everything in between. Symbols on his knees, symbols on his shoulder pads, and everything. So yeah. For the next guy I want to show you is this guy. So, he is just another standard Stern Guard veteran. However, the only difference is this guy has a heavy bolter. Now, this used to be only that Devastators could have, but not anymore. So as you can see, he has the pipes going down from his charging pack all the way down to his heavy bolter. Really cool to have this available. And yeah, like I said, they can take pretty much any weapon. However, the melters, the Stern Guard bolt rifle, and the heavy bolter are like the main three. So there's just two more units I want to show you for the Stern Guard veterans. So next is this guy. So he is a custom sergeant that I made. So he has his bolter under his arm, but I also gave him a power sword because I wanted some element of melee in my Stern Guard. They are not as good, or even nearly as close as good at melee as something like the Blade Guard, but they are still good at it, so having a sergeant with a power sword makes sense. I also gave him this really nice banner, and then I used a Blood Angels transfer to put a symbol on it. But other than that, he has some decorations around his, loincloth or armor cloth. And yeah, that's it. So there's just one more unit I want to show you. So this is the last Stern Guard unit that I wanted to show off. And that's just because he is one of the older ones that I have. So as you can see, he is a lot different. He's a lot shorter and smaller. His head, at the time when I painted him, I'm trying to see if I can get the light good. I didn't have any metallic paints, so I had like a non-metallic gold paint. So it ended up turning or looking more like a light tan brown, but I still think it looks really cool. So same with the shoulders and everything, and he has I believe this is a bolt carbine, but I actually don't know what weapon this is exactly. But yeah, I have 5 of these guys and I love them. And again, these are custom made, so the head and the weapon and everything, these are custom models, which are great. And that's almost canon for Stern Guard. They kit bash so much with their own gear and weapons that when you do it, it feels like, oh, this is the way it's supposed to be done. But that is it for my Stern Guard veterans. And leading my Stern Guard veterans, I only have 1 unit, and this may be a surprise to you guys. So, this is Captain Titus of the Ultramarines. So, I saw that Captain Titus was getting a new model, and I really liked it just as a model, even though I do not like the Ultramarines. So what I did was I bought it, I cut off every symbol of the Ultramarines, got rid of the head, got a Blood Angels helmet that has the little blood drop in the middle. I don't know if you guys can see it. Gave him that, painted him up as a Blood Angel, and yeah, so you can see his his chainsword there. He has his bolter kind of half under his cloak. But this is just an amazing model. And I gotta admit, I am a little bit jealous of the Ultramarines players for having access to this. Now, obviously, I cannot use this as Titus, but I can just use him as a captain. But yeah, so that is the end of the the Stern Guard. Let's move on to the final group. Okay, so for our final group, this is my Vanguard veterans. So the Vanguard veterans are the jump pack veteran guys. So we've had the melee veterans, we've had the standard weapons and heavy weapons veterans. These are the jump pack veterans. So they are basically the same as jump pack intercessors in terms of loadout wise, except they have much better stats and much better buffs and everything when led by the right unit. I didn't put anyone leading them, but normally I would have one of the models with the jump pack captains lead these guys. So I have 20 of them here, and as usual I'm just going to show you a quick selection of a few just to show you what I'm talking about. So first up we have this guy. So this guy is a standard Vanguard veterans, all things considered, except I swapped out his chainsword for a power axe. That's something that you can do, and with their rules, you technically can use any melee weapon other than a chainsword, but anything that isn't a chainsword counts as a relic weapon. So it could be a power axe, a power sword, dual lightning claws, which I actually have some with dual lightning claws, they all count as relic weapons currently. So in a way, it gives you freedom to really make the models how you want. But yeah, that is that guy. Next is this guy. So he is interesting because one, he has a very, I did this guy's head a very dark, I did this guy's head a copper because I have run out of gold paint and I'm waiting for more to arrive. Because normally veterans' helmets are golden. So he has a lightning claw in one hand and a shield in the other. This is actually a completely legal unit. Again, the shield is normal, but this would be considered a legacy weapon. Next, we have this guy. I'm not going to spend too much time on him. This is just like your bog standard Vanguard veteran. Golden helmet, bolt pistol, chainsword. You can always tell a Vanguard veteran from a normal assault marine or a tactical marine by this cross pattern on their chest, and they all have these like old style helmets, which I really like. Next is this guy here, who has a face instead of a helmet. This was actually one of the first faces I ever did, so I see nothing but flaws in it, but hopefully it's not that bad. He has a wing on one shoulder and is wielding a two-handed thunder hammer. And finally, we have this guy, a sergeant, for my Vanguard veterans. So he has this death mask with the kind of crest on it. He has his bolt pistol, and he has his power sword with the golden hilt. I really like him a lot. This was actually officially not a Vanguard veteran. He was just a assault marine, but I kit bashed him because he came with the power sword like that anyways, so I thought that he would make for a great Vanguard veteran unit. Anyway, that is it for the Vanguard veterans. So, now that is us done with infantry, so time to move on to the vehicles. So before we move on to the vehicles, we just have to quickly talk about these few models. I didn't know where to put them on the table or how to group them, so I just thought I would put them separately. So, first off, we have the company champions. So first off, we have the heroes of the company. So these are a unit. I actually think they might be an Ultramarines unit, but I'm not sure to be exact. They are 5 models that are extremely powerful, but grant massive buffs to other allies that they are with. I don't think any of them can lead any units, but being in their presence buffs units. So here are the models. So we have this guy, who is just basically a heavy gunner. He would fit right at home with the Stern Guard. This guy here, who might be my favorite, he could double for a captain with his pistol and his sword, golden helmet, and little cross on the back. This guy, who has a literal cross, a thunder hammer, and a plasma pistol. Really, really cool unit. I love the gold. He has like golden fabric over his shoulder pad, which is such a cool idea for a space marine. This guy who has a power fist and is just pointing, and I gave a Blood Angels helmet to try and make them more Blood Angels rather than just standard Space Marines painted red. And finally, this guy, the standard bearer. So this is him here. I decided to do him in all gold. And the banner itself, which is not the best. The banner came pre-painted. I could not find these guys in any hobby store anywhere, both locally and online. So I went on eBay and I found them, and they were all primed, but for some reason they had painted the bloody flag, which was annoying, but still could not pass it up. Now next we are going to be talking about some Horus Heresy models. Now I got these right when I started Blood Angels and I knew nothing about Space Marines, so I did not know that Horus Heresy units could not be used in 40k. So instead I proxy them as stuff. So there's only really two groups and one individual. Oh, sorry, two groups and two individuals. So we'll start with the individuals. So this is a Praetor. Really, really detailed unit. I love this model on this mold so much. I use him just as a captain. But yeah. And the second is Zephon, who is a Blood Angels jump pack guy from the Horus Heresy, who I use as a jump pack captain in 40k. Next are these guys. So these are the Crimson Paladins. I bought these again. These are Blood Angels exclusive Horus Heresy things, and I'm going to show you all of them, but oh my god, the detail on these guys is insane. But I use them as proxies for my Terminators, just because they fit, they have similar weapons, they have similar base sizes, but like, just look at the shields and everything. I will say, Horus Heresy seems to get so much better quality models. Like, I've never seen a Horus Heresy model that was not, like, extremely detailed. And finally, this guy. So we have 3 with swords, 1 with a Gatling gun, and 1 with a hammer. And then finally, I'm not going to show you all of these guys, but these are, again, Blood Angels exclusive. These are the Dawnbreaker cohort. They are Horus Heresy era jump pack models unique to the Blood Angels. So again, I got 10 of them, not knowing that they were Horus Heresy only. So this is what they look like, and the detail on them is incredible, like all Horus Heresy models. So I use them as proxies for my jump pack intercessors. So I have 25 standard jump pack intercessors, but with these guys I have 35, which is really cool. So like I said, I didn't know where to put these or how to work them into it, but they were important enough to be addressed. So that's it for those. So now we are on to the vehicles. So before we get into the vehicles, we need to talk about my Tech Marines. So I have 2 Blood Angels Tech Marines. This guy here with the Omnissiah's axe and a plasma pistol. I really like him, and I like how his head is like half cybernetic, not like one augmented eye, but actually half his face is pure, just metallic. And this is my second one. This guy has a helmet, again with the Omnissiah's axe and a plasma pistol. All of the mechadendrites and little bits and bobs on him. Same with the first guy. All of his mechadendrites are there. Mechadendrites are the little cybernetic limbs and stuff coming off him. And for the third one, technically he isn't my Blood Angels one, he is my Grey Knights one, but I use him from time to time if needs be. Because a Tech Marine being grey is just normal. So this is him here. Instead of a plasma pistol, he has like a small little bolt carbine, X of the Omnisire, and all the mechadendrites and stuff with the heavier tools at his back. Really great unit. I love this claw coming forward and this one here. The Tech Marine model is so good, but the only issue I have with it is that it's basically identical to that of the Warpsmith model for Chaos Space Marines. But yeah, those are my Tech Marines. So first, let's start off with the Dreadnoughts, and we're gonna do the older style Dreadnoughts first. So first up is this one here. This is my main Dreadnought. These are the Furioso Dreadnoughts, the ones used by the Blood Angels. So he has a Frag Storm grenade launcher on one side, and a power hand with a underslung flamethrower on the other. Great model. I really, really like this. It's just such a good model, and also the best loadout for this type of Dreadnought. Next up is a Legends model, actually. So this is a Librarian Dreadnought. This used to be when a Librarian was entombed and became a Dreadnought. So he has his glaive. I think it's called a Force glaive, but I can't remember. And yeah, same thing. He has a claw with an underslung weapon, either a bolter or some kind of grenade launcher. I'm actually not quite sure. But I'm really surprised that they made this one a Legends model because it's so cool. Also, he has a triple grenade launcher on top, as does my previous one that we just looked at with the Flagstone grenade launcher. So loads and loads and loads of grenades. The final Furioso Dreadnought that I have is this one here. So, as you can see, it has the Blood Angels insignia on it with the wings, and on the coffin itself, the blood drop and everything. So on one side we have a twin-linked las cannon, and on the other we have a missile launcher. Really, really good. No weapon on top for him because he has the missile launcher, so he should be good. So missile launcher is good for taking out vehicles, and so is the las cannon. Just one is good for close range, one is good for long range, which makes for a pretty good unit. Next, for the older Dreadnoughts are two that are Blood Angels exclusives. So this one is called a Death Company Dreadnought. So this is when someone who has fallen to the Black Rage is entombed in a Dreadnought. They have these twin claws that they use, as well as having underslung flamethrowers on underneath each one. And they are just melee monsters. These things go absolutely crazy. Any kind of infantry, even elite infantry, these things will just shred through. Another great addition and another great reason to choose Blood Angels as your faction. And for our last old style Dreadnought is a second Death Company Dreadnought. The one you just saw was the official model for the Death Company Dreadnought. This is a custom one that I made. So again, you can see that it's black, it has the X's, and it has the same claws, but underslung is a bolter on one side and a flamer on the other. Absolutely incredible units, and having two is so good. So I know a lot of people kind of or tend to shy away from the older style dreadnoughts now, but I personally love them. So let's get into the Primaris dreadnoughts. So first up we have my Ballistus dreadnought. So the Ballistus dreadnought is an anti-tank dread. He has the missile launcher, which is basically a much more powerful version of the one you saw on the smaller dreadnought. Great for anti-tank, not as good as like dedicated anti-tank tanks, but still amazing, as well as a twin-linked las cannon. Again, for punching holes through enemy armor. Great model, I absolutely love this. So this is one of my two Brutalis dreadnoughts. So the Brutalis dreadnought is pure melee and an absolute beast at that. They come equipped with two melee options. For this one, I went with the dual claws. Absolutely incredible model. You can see that this one, it's actually partly open, so this is where I'm assuming the guy would be entombed, and it comes with two multi-melters on each side, so if anyone gets too close, one, they have to deal with the claws, and two, they have to deal with the melters. So the claws are best used for infantry, whereas the melters would be better for vehicles. And normally there is a slot up here for a twin-linked autocannon, but I have lost that, so I do not know where that is currently. Next is my second Brutalis dreadnought, which is much the same, and this one does have the twin-linked cannon. So he again has the same claws as before, except this guy is fully sealed up inside. You can see some of the transfers I put on. Claws on this side. I put chains around his hands just to make it look like they have to chain this guy up, which just makes him even more menacing. And I actually forget if these are heavy flamers or heavy melters on this guy. But yeah, gameplay wise, he's exactly the same as the first one, but I still really like him. Next up, we have our first Redemptor dreadnought. So Redemptor dreadnoughts are basically like the main staple new Primaris dreadnought. So I have mine with the loadout of the heavy plasma cannon for anti-elite infantry and anti-tank. However, there is an option for a Gatling cannon for more of an anti-chaff, anti-infantry if you just want to mow through people. And a fist, which also has an underslung bolter on it. Really cool. He has these two missile pods here for shooting out light vehicles. And yeah, I absolutely love the Redemptor Dreadnought model so much. I think it's one of the best new models of the Primaris range. And then for our next one is just my second Redemptor Dreadnought. Exact same loadout. Power Fist with the underslung weapon and the heavy plasma. I can't remember if it's the Plasma Incinerator, Plasma Devastator, or Plasma Cannon. But either way, it does its job and it just looks so cool. Same thing as before with the little missiles here. Here's a close-up of what the sarcophagus looks like. And this one has a, what's it called? A small little missile launcher on top instead of a twin-linked autocannon. So for our next dreadnought, this is another Legends unit. This is a Leviathan dreadnought. So this one is one of the ones that up until recently was usable in CSM, but now it is gone from both. I believe this is only able to be played in Horus Heresy, but it has this quad-linked cannon on either side. This is mainly for dealing with infantry, but it just mows through everything. So yeah, that's it for him. I did a little bit of a different paint style with this one. I did black, not quite Death Company, but I just wanted to kind of mix things up so that they are not all, red. And for my last two dreadnoughts, technically they actually aren't even dreadnoughts. So this is the Invictus Warsuit. So this is something that is basically a mech piloted by a living space marine in full armor. So he is not entombed, he's not critically wounded, and afterwards he can get out. They're not as powerful or as sturdy as dreadnoughts, but they are still cool units to have. So in one hand, he has this Bolt SMG. I actually cannot remember what this is called, but even though it looks like a small little SMG in his hand, this is bigger than a standard heavy bolter. So I imagine that this thing just shreds whatever it hits. You have two cannons coming out. I believe these are auto cannons, but I might be wrong. On his chest area. And then for his main weapon, he has what's called an Incendium cannon. This is an extremely unique type of flamer, and it's best used against hordes of chaff or standard to mid-tier infantry. Really, really good, really cool, and I love that this unit has like its own unique take on a flamer. So our last unit is yet another Invictus Dreadnought. Apart from the Ballistus, I tend to try and have at least two of every type of Dreadnought. So this one has foregone his SMG and just has his hand for melee. Same kind of cannons on his chest, on the main torso of the vehicle. And for his main weapon, this is called a twin iron hull autocannon, which is really cool, and I really like the little guard that it has here. So this is amazing at shredding elite infantry like Terminators, for example, and also being able to do extreme damage to light and medium vehicles. Really cool models. I actually haven't really used these ones that much, but I really like them, and I really wish that if you're familiar with the Grey Knights Dread Knight, I wish they were more like this compared to the style that they went with. As well as this one also has a little missile launcher on the top. This one is missing it, but it's actually right upstairs. I just forgot to glue it on before recording. Okay, so now let's finish up with a look at my Blood Angels vehicles. So starting off, we have the Impulsor. So the Impulsor is one of the new Primaris vehicles, and it is a transport. By the way, one of the ways you can tell if something is a new Primaris vehicle is if it has these anti-grav things on it. Anyway, so this is a transport. I believe it can hold 12 units. Actually, no, I think it's either 12 or 6, I can't remember. But it is really cool. It has these two little weapons on the side. A lot of people do not like the open bay hatch at the back. It kind of looks like a pickup truck, like you might see in America. But I don't mind it, and I think the interior is well designed. Now, this actually does come with, and I'll bring the other one up. Sorry, I've moved the other one up too, just because they are literally identical. This one, however, does have a heavy stubber on it. There are a couple options that you can choose to put on where this is here. Sorry if I I'm bad at moving the camera. Where this is, I have this magnetized. So you can choose to have a turret for shooting ground targets, an anti-air missile launcher for shooting down aircraft, or a shield generator which grants a plus force invuln save. So I have gone and chosen the shield generator because, in my opinion, these are transports. Their main goal is to get their cargo to its destination, not to be a firepower or engage in active combat. These are to be used to bring units from one location to the other. So having it arrive intact with the occupants still alive is more important than having some extra offensive capability. Next, we have the Invader ATV buggy. I got this for a similar reason that I got the Land Speeder, just to run it with my Outrider bikes. So I do actually really like this model. I did not think I would. I just got it because I wanted to have one. But similar to the ATV, I went with the multi-melter. You can choose to have a heavy bolter or a multi-melter. So again, while the bikes are taking down infantry, this is taking down armor and tanks. Really cool. Both of the Marines have the yellow helmets of the close quarter support. Here we have my Blood Angels Rhino. Now, I only have one of these. The Rhino is not very good for a Primaris army. It can really only carry, I think it's Eliminators, no sorry, it's Scouts and Tactical Marines and Devastators. That's it. So this is essentially just if I need to get someone with a las cannon to a different location fast, I put them in here. But yeah, that's it. And it also has these two little turrets on it. So next up is the Razorback. So this is a transport that has some firepower. I cannot remember the name of this turret for the life of me, but it is one that deals with anti-armor rather than anti-infantry. So, this is just it. It's basically just a Rhino with a turret, and this can transport 6 units. But yeah, let's move on. Next, we have a Legends unit. I believe it's a Legends unit. So this is the Whirlwind tank, or artillery tank. This was the Space Marines version of an artillery piece, but I don't think it's actually a legal unit anymore. Again, I got these lights here, and the light effect around the area, again, is a sponge. As for these stripes here, these were transfers. I did not paint these. I wish I did. That would have been so cool to claim, but no, I did not. And next up, we have an old school Predator Annihilator. So, there is a lot to say about this vehicle. So, let's start at the top. So, its turret is that of any Predator Annihilator. This is an anti-tank tank. Again, this is one of the original Space Marine tanks. I'm actually just going to take this off so I can turn it over easier. So on each side, we have a heavy bolter. On the front, we have a dozer blade. I covered this in transfers, and I did some bullet holes with paint. There's a grenade launcher, and yeah, that's about it for the Predator. Really good. I do have another option which is better for anti-tank, but this one is still great to have. So this is my Storm Raven gunship, and this is the very first aircraft I have bought in all of my time with Warhammer. 7 armies, and this is my first aircraft, and this is a recent buy. So this thing is so cool. I know aircraft is trash currently, but I really wanted it just because it's cool. So let's go over the weapons. So up front we have the two melters as the front option. On the sides we have the 6 heavy bolters. All of these are magnetized, by the way, just because I was terrified of them falling off and losing them. On the top of the hull, I have the las cannons, which can be removed. And then on each wing, we have 2 missiles. So those are the offensive capabilities of this, but that is not why I bought it. There is so much more to this. Here's the window with the pilot. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. Like I said, there's transfers everywhere on it. So the Storm Raven can carry 12 units in power armor, or 6 units with jump packs. So, you know, you could load this thing up with 5 jump pack intercessors and a jump pack captain, and then have them jump out over it, or over the enemy and start flying around. But still, that is not the draw to this thing. The reason I got this, and the reason that it is so good, and that so many people want one, even though aircraft are terrible right now, is because the Storm Raven is capable of picking up, carrying, and dropping off any kind of dreadnought. So that means you can pick up a Brutalis dreadnought, attach it to this, fly over the enemy or behind the enemy lines, and drop it off and just watch this thing tear everything to shreds. Or if you're a Blood Angels player, do the same thing, but with a Death Company dreadnought. I believe this is the only aircraft in the Space Marine line that allows you to carry a dreadnought. I may be wrong about that, but yeah, so that's why I got the Storm Raven. So yeah, let's move on. So starting here, we have our Vindicator. So the Vindicator is an extremely close-range tank that does devastating power. I do have a guy on the turret there. It has this tiny little cannon. If you play guard, it's almost like the cannon of a Lehman Russ Demolisher, but just on steroids. With this amazing dozer blade, so this is actually meant as an anti-fortification unit. However, it can be used as an anti-tank if you get close enough. So here we have our repulsor. This is just the standard repulsor. It has a lot of weapons on it, and it is basically able to do pretty much everything. So you have a plasma there, you have your main cannon there, a secondary smaller cannon, you have this Gatling gun, on the back you have this twin-linked cannon, and around it you have all of these missile pods. So it is basically able to do anti-infantry, anti-elite infantry, anti-light vehicle, anti-tank, anti-heavy armor, and then all of these rockets as well. So this thing is stacked to the teeth. As well as that, the repulsor is actually able to transport units. This thing can carry 14 guys, which is amazing for a vehicle that can do this. In my opinion, a repulsor, at least one, is a must-have for basically any Space Marine army. Then next, we have our first repulsor executioner. Now, this is very, very similar to the repulsor, except for a couple of differences. So one, by the way, I forgot to mention, so I have a guy on the turret there, and a guy on the turret there. There on the Vindicator, but I need to get rid of those super glue marks. Anyway, so the repulsor Executioner is the beefier, stronger, more deadly version of the repulsor. This one cannot transport any units. However, it has a much more powerful cannon and is a lot better as a dedicated anti-tank. It also has the Gatling bolter back for anti-infantry and light vehicles. It has all of those rockets that we saw on the standard repulsor, as well as these two guns at the back. So these ones have twin bolters. There should be another one there, but I lost it, so hopefully I can find that. We have a guy on the turret there, and on the back a twin linked, I believe it's a stubber. And then this is meant to be like a radio tower or something. Great unit. Again, would recommend it very, very strongly. And this is our second repulsor executioner. Not going to go into it super detailed because it's basically the exact same as the one we just saw. Only I had to improvise and find just any weapon. I found this was a 3D printed weapon that I ordered for some kit bashing project that I just used to technically have something there. And then as for these weapons, I have, these are like little twin bolters, but this time around I actually have both in their sockets, and the same, here's them, it's the same missiles, same cannon, same, Gatling style bolter. Really, really cool. Next is my Gladiator Lancer. Now the Gladiator Lancer is the anti-tank tank. This thing is made for the express and exclusive purpose of hunting down and killing enemy tanks. Light armor, heavy armor, does not matter. This is my favorite of the Gladiator variants, even though I only have one. What's it called? It's Gatling style bolter. I know Gatling is not the word for this weapon. I cannot remember what it is. We have the main cannon with its little screen. This thing will punch a hole through any tank. So we also have a missile launcher here, similar to the repulsor. Here we have two bolters that can, heavy bolters that can be swiveled around. Same on this side. And then here we just have a heavy stubber. Even though there's no one there, it still can be used, but I love this thing. These two I'm going to go over quickly. So these are just my two Blood Angels Land Raiders. So this one has twin bolters with twin las cannons on either side. This one I mainly use for Terminators and stuff. Also, I tried out a new gloss varnish I got on this one, that's why it's kind of shiny. And then this is my second one. So this one has the multi-bolters on either side, has a different type of cannon. I believe this is like a bolt cannon or something like that. A guy on the turret. And yeah, so this one I use for transporting my eradicators. They are the Gravis armor wearing guys that have the massive melters that go around killing tanks. Then here I have my one of two Bal Predators. So the Bal Predator is another vehicle exclusive to the Blood Angels. It's a type of predator that is extremely anti-infantry. And for the last of my tanks, we have a second Battle Predator. Now, I'm not going to go super in-depth on this one, because it's basically the same thing, just with a different head on it. So again, it has the heavy bolters on either side, has the storm bolter as a turret, twin-linked assault cannon. We have our Flamestorm cannon, which, in case the name didn't give it away, is a massive flamethrower. This is amazing for clearing out chaff, standard infantry, or really any unarmored target. It is incredible. Even variants of the Gladiator that are anti-infantry pale in comparison to both styles of Battle Predators. So that is it for tanks, but that is not the end of the vehicles just yet. So for the final part of my army showcase, we have my 3 drop pods. I am only recently learning that you can actually have more than 3 drop pods. I heard you can have up to like 6 or 7. I'm thinking about getting another one. I think 4 is a good number to have, but these are the 3 I have currently. So we have this one here, which is like the most normal one. It's red, black with gold accents, really good. Here's the interior of it. I didn't really paint the interior of this one, but I don't think I'm the only one who does that. Then we have this one, which is much more black than the previous one. Really cool, again, fits the Blood Angels very well. And for the last one, I did it in Death Company colors. Now, this one I try to use to launch Death Company guys, but I don't exclusively use it for Death Company. I just thought that it would be cool to have a drop pod in this paint scheme. So that is it. That is the end of the Army Showcase. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope that you enjoyed watching and or listening to this Blood Angels Army Showcase. This is about 2.5 years of work, and I don't even know how many hours spent painting. So your viewership does mean the world to me. If you enjoyed this style of video, I do have a playlist on my channel where I do similar style showcases for all of my 7 armies. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. My name has been Crimson, and I will see you guys in the next one. Have a good day.